Chapter 445. Viviani's Who Has Heard This Song? The post was posted on the pop music section of the Hong Kong forum at 11:10 a.m. Within half an hour, the post had become one of the hottest posts on the homepage of the Hong Kong forum. It had over 20,000 views and over 1,000 replies. Although this number was nothing compared to the hottest posts in some of the popular forums in China, it was already the hottest post in the Hong Kong forum. 3 bowls of liquor. Venomous words played an important role. Many members of the forum were enraged by his words. They used all kinds of obscenities to attack him. The moderator had to delete the comments and warn him. As a result, the popularity of the post continued to increase after midnight. More and more people participated in the discussion. As the original poster, Viviani obviously did not expect that her post would cause a war. After posting for more than an hour, she timidly asked 3 bowls of liquor who this handsome guy was. Only then did everyone realize that they had been arguing for a long time, and still did not know who the main character was. 3 bowls of liquor was obviously friendlier to the girl. He replied, "This handsome guy who plays the guitar and sings is called Lu Chen. He is the leader of the new generation of the Chinese pop music industry. It has only been a year since his debut and he has already released 2 albums. He also filmed 2 TV series. Not only did he set a record for the audience in China, he also won great success in Korea. That's why I said you are all ignorant. You only know about Hong Kong forums and blogs. You don't know how exciting the outside world is. Now the mainland's entertainment industry has already surpassed Xinjiang. There are many talented people in the pop music and film industry. The market scale and development potential are many times greater than Xinjiang." 3 bowls of liquor. Reply to Viviani was like a big stone thrown into a deep pool. It immediately caused countless waves and ripples. In just a few minutes, a large number of replies appeared. Some were surprised, some were praising, but most were criticizing. Some even called 3 bowls of liquor a Hong Kong traitor. 3 bowls of liquor. Reply really hit the sore spot of many people. It was also the sore spot of many people in Xinjiang. That was, the current mainland was surpassing Xinjiang in all aspects, but most people in Xinjiang were still immersed in the glory of the past, unwilling to recognize the development and progress of the country, and always had a sense of superiority in the past. This kind of social atmosphere was reflected in the public opinion media. That was, the local TV stations, newspapers and magazines. Reports on China were basically focused on politics, and social news and entertainment news were very rare. Most of the news was about natural disasters and man-made disasters, and the people of Xinjiang didn't like to read other news. Therefore, when Lu Chen came to Xinjiang for the first time after just over a year, most people did not know him, nor did they know his identity. 3 bowls of wine was obviously not one of them. In the face of the tidal wave of attacks, he remained unmoved, as steady as Mount Tai, and sent another reply. "Some people are always pretending to be asleep. Let me tell you about the achievements of this Lu Chen in China. His first album, You Who Sat Next to Me, has sold more than 2 million, and his second album, The Ordinary Road, has sold nearly 3 million, and is very likely to reach the crown achievement of 5 million. Not only that, Lu Chen's album Womanflower, for his girlfriend Chen Feier, has sold more than 5 million, and the TV series Full House of Romance, which he created and starred in, has a rating of 42% in South Korea. Tell me, which singer in Xinjiang can have such achievements, and which TV series can have such a rating when exported to South Korea? If you don't believe me, then go search it on the domestic search engine. Don't say that you can't understand simplified Chinese." The common languages in Xinjiang included Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. There were more people who could speak Mandarin than before, but Xinjiang's writing had always followed the traditional Chinese characters, and did not follow the mainland's change to simplified Chinese. The debate between simplified and traditional Chinese characters had been going on for a long time, and Xinjiang people were generally stubborn about the authentic, traditional Chinese characters. This was also one of the important reasons why many Xinjiang netizens refused to go to domestic websites. Even if many domestic websites and forums provided the function of converting between simplified and traditional Chinese characters. As soon as the heavy punch of over 3 bowls of wine came out, many people suddenly became silent. The two albums added up to 5 million sales, and the album produced by others also sold more than 5 million. In Xinjiang 20 years ago, the big stars of the Xinjiang music industry, who controlled the two major markets in Hong Kong and the mainland, could definitely win. But now it was better to save it. Everyone knew that Xinjiang's pop music industry was very poor now. The strength of the new generation was insufficient, and the old singers were exhausted. The most important thing was that they had lost the big market in the mainland. It would be a great success if a new album could sell for hundreds of thousands. Moreover, singers and artists no longer relied on selling records to make money. They all took the so-called pan-entertainment route. And those excellent creators in the past had either withered or retired, and the original creators were getting fewer and fewer. Cantonese pop songs had not produced a real classic for a long time. Although there were still outstanding works, compared with the glory of the past, it really made people sigh. This song, The Love of My Life, played by Lu Chen and sung by himself, undoubtedly made people's eyes light up. To be fair, in recent years, there had not been a better work than it in Xinjiang's pop music industry. But why was its singer and composer an artist from the mainland? Many forum members who had been arguing until they were dizzy finally woke up and began to rationally discuss the work itself, instead of the difference between Xinjiang and the mainland. The night was long, and some people were not in the mood to sleep. And Lu Chen slept very soundly in his new home in Xinjiang, until he got up at 6 in the morning. After washing up, he habitually changed into sports shoes and clothes, then went out of the apartment and ran along the shore of the shallow bay beach. Finally, he found a secluded place to practice martial arts. After practicing until he came back drenched in sweat, not far from the apartment, Lu Chen bought a hot breakfast from the convenience store and prepared to take it home. When he paid, he suddenly saw the newspaper rack next to the cashier. On those dazzling and gaudy newspapers, there was a very familiar photo. These newspapers were all unfolded and hung in thick stacks. The newspaper that Lu Chen saw was called Polo Daily. The photo was published on the second page with a very eye-catching title. Xu Jing met a mysterious handsome man at night, suspected to have a new lover. Damn. Lu Chen couldn't help but curse. This photo was the scene of him sending Xu Jing to the car after drinking coffee with her last night. It was actually taken by paparazzi. Xinjiang's paparazzi really deserved their reputation. Chapter 446. The entertainment reporters in Xinjiang had the same origin as the notorious paparazzi in the UK, and they had the essence of the latter. Because the media in Xinjiang was very developed, even in the age of the internet, the traditional TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines were still very powerful, and they competed for limited resources in a limited space. Therefore, most of the paparazzi in Xinjiang had developed a special ability to follow, secretly take photos, and dig up the privacy of celebrities. Especially the celebrities in Xinjiang, they all changed their faces when talking about paparazzi. Guarding against paparazzi was a basic skill, and those who didn't master this skill would be embarrassed sooner or later, unless they were clean and innocent. Therefore, there were many celebrities who quit the entertainment circle, which gave rise to sensational entertainment gossip such as XXX Door. Before coming to Xinjiang, several of his friends in the circle, including Chen Fei, had warned Lu Chen that the paparazzi in Xinjiang were very powerful, and he must be very careful not to let them have anything on him. Lu Chen kept that in mind, but after arriving in Xinjiang, he found that the atmosphere here was special, and there were very few people who knew him, so he more or less slacked off. He didn't expect that he would be secretly photographed. In fact, he knew that it was useless for him to be careful, because Xu Jing was careful enough, and she also didn't expect it. Lu Chen couldn't help shaking his head, and reached out to take the Polo Daily. How much? The clerk replied, 50 cents. Polo Daily was a free daily, but it was not free to sell it in convenience stores or newsstands, so the 50 cents was the booth fee that the latter naturally earned. But this price was very cheap, because as a daily newspaper, Polo Daily had more than 20 pages, and it had enough materials, so it had a lot of weight in his hands. Lu Chen had some understanding of the media in Xinjiang, and he knew that Polo Daily was a rising black horse in Xinjiang in recent years, and its daily circulation was much higher than that of several old newspapers in the same industry, which was very powerful. He didn't expect that he would be on the second page of Polo Daily just a few days after coming to Xiangjiang. But what made Lu Chen dumbfounded was that in this sensationalist news article, he was just a mysterious man. What was even more outrageous was that the article even hinted that he might be Xu Jing's gigolo. If the owner of the Polo Daily was standing in front of Lu Chen at this moment, Lu Chen would not hesitate to throw the nonsense newspaper in his hand at his face. With breakfast and newspapers, Lu Chen returned home. After washing off his sweat, he had just changed into clean clothes when the phone on the coffee table rang. After the call was connected, Xu Jing's voice came through the phone. "Lu Chen, I'm really sorry." Lu Chen understood as soon as he heard it. "Do you want to talk about today's Polo Daily report?" "Ah." Xu Jing was surprised. "You've seen it?" Lu Chen laughed. "Yes, I've seen the power of the Xiangjiang paparazzi," Xu Jing said apologetically. "I'm sorry, it's my negligence that got you into trouble. I'll post a statement on my blog to explain. I'm sorry for the trouble." The blog she was talking about was not the Domestic Waves blog, but a Hong Kong blog. Lu Chen said, "It's not your fault. You don't have to apologize. It's not a big deal." Countless precedents had proved that as a celebrity, it was not worth it to be angry with the media. Unless it was blatant malicious slander or fabrication, it was enough to clarify and laugh it off. Since he had come to Xiangjiang to develop his career, he must be familiar with and adapt to the rules here. Therefore, Lu Chen didn't take it to heart, and of course he wouldn't blame Xu Jing. After chatting for a while, Lu Chen ended the call with Xu Jing. He thought for a while and called Chen Feier. The communication between the media in China and Xiangjiang was very poor, and gossip usually rarely appeared there. But now it was the age of the internet, and the transmission of information was very fast. Therefore, for the sake of safety, he had to tell Chen Feier about it. After all, it was a scandal. After listening to Lu Chen's words, Chen Feier laughed and shouted, "Send this newspaper to me right now. I want to see the so-called mysterious man." Lu Chen was speechless. He had nothing to say to her. After breakfast, he went out to the studio. Today he was going to visit a local film company with Wan Xiaoquan and Chen Wenxiang to discuss the cooperation of the new film. At the same time, Xu Jing posted a statement on her blog. The main content of the statement was to refute the report of Polo Daily. She explained the identity and background of Lu Chen in detail, and specifically said that it was the first time they met last night, and that they talked about her new album in the cafe. At the end of the blog post, Xu Jing also attached a photo of her and Lu Chen at the charity dinner at that time. Xu Jing was the queen of the music industry in Xiangjiang, so she naturally knew how to deal with this kind of gossip. She didn't cover up Lu Chen's identity, and frankly announced it to everyone, so that she could show her calmness. Don't make wild guesses. In the article, Xu Jing also ridiculed the ignorance of the paparazzi and editors of the Polo Daily. They didn't even know Lu Chen, who has recently become a hot topic in China and Korea. They even called him a mysterious man, which was ridiculous. Xu Jing had more than 500,000 fans on her blog in Hong Kong, which was much less than those big stars. But as soon as the post was published, it immediately received a lot of reposts and comments. The circle of Xiangjiang was actually very small, and when there was any news, it was often known by everyone. Anyway, Xu Jing was a celebrity, so it didn't take long for Li Wan, the editor-in-chief of Polo Daily, to know about it. After reading Xu Jing's post, he pondered for a moment, and then called Xiao Ho back. When Xiao Ho returned to the editorial department, Li Wan showed him the post. Xiao Ho was shocked. "Editor-in-chief Li Wan shook her head and stopped him from self-reflection. She said, "It's not your fault. Even I didn't recognize this Lu Chen. If we're talking about negligence, it's my fault first." Xiao Ho felt like he had been pardoned, and he was very touched. Li Wan continued, "The first mistake can be forgiven, but not the second time. From today on, keep an eye on him. There must be a lot of information on him." The editor-in-chief of Polo Daily pointed at Lu Chen on the screen, who was smiling very handsomely in the photo. There was a sharp light in Li Wan's eyes, as if she was a hunter who had found a powerful prey. It was the first time that Xiao Ho saw such a look in Li Wan's eyes, and he couldn't help but shiver. He seemed to smell the smoke of gunpowder. Chapter 447. Lu Chen didn't know that he had been targeted by the Polo Daily, and even if he knew, he couldn't do anything about it. The power of the Xiangjiang paparazzi was not just for show. They made the artists of Xiangjiang tremble with fear, but they were indispensable. The laws of Xiangjiang also favored the paparazzi's stalking and secretly photographing to a certain extent. The only thing that could really teach them a lesson was the power of capital. Lu Chen had just arrived in Xiangjiang and had no capital, so he had to find a local film company to cooperate with for his first film to avoid all kinds of trouble. The suggestion of cooperation was made by Chen Wenxiang, and he also made a list of 3 film companies. These 3 film companies could not be compared with industry giants such as Jinrong, Wang Corporation, and Polaroid in terms of strength and influence, but they were all established companies with a wide range of connections. Most importantly, they would not have an amazing appetite like Jinrong. In the current situation of the industry's downturn, it was easy to reach cooperation conditions that satisfied both sides. However, the reality was a bit embarrassing. Chen Wenxiang had contacted 2 of the companies, but before he could discuss the specific conditions, he was politely declined by the other party, saying that they had new films to start and would not consider cooperating with others for the time being. In the final analysis, it was the disaster caused by the Xiangjiang government's film and television industry support plan. With this good news, many capable film companies were ready to do a big job, intending to use the new films to get into the huge mainland market. However, the quota of films entering the mainland was limited. Of course, they had to focus on ensuring their new films first. How could they be willing to cooperate with Lu Chen's studio, which had no reputation at all? Industry giants such as Jinrong certainly had the ability to produce 2 or 3 new films at the same time, but they were even more unreliable. Chen Wenxiang said frankly, Jinrong and Wang Corporation can't even enter the door. They don't care about small people like me. Even if I spend money to find someone to smooth things over, I won't get anything in the end, and I'll be treated as a joke. Chen Wenxiang had obviously learned a painful lesson. Even Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting next to him, could hear the resentment and humiliation in his words. Lu Chen smiled faintly and said, "It doesn't matter. What we need now is a partner who can sincerely cooperate with us. As for the future, I think only others will come to us to beg for our cooperation." He said it very calmly, as if he was talking about a very ordinary fact. His words revealed a strong sense of confidence. Wan Xiaoquan agreed with him, but Chen Wenxiang didn't. He knew that Lu Chen was talented and famous in the mainland, but this was Hong Kong. Of course, Chen Wenxiang would not expose his inner thoughts on his face. He smiled and said, "Boss is right. Whether our studio can become famous in Hong Kong depends on this first movie." Chen Wenxiang then gave Lu Chen a detailed introduction. The only company he was interested in working with was Jiayang Pictures. Jiayang Pictures had been established for 30 years. It mainly produced medium and low-budget Hong Kong films. During the boom period of Hong Kong's film industry, it also had a glorious time and produced several blockbuster films. However, in the past 10 years, with the significant decline of Hong Kong's film industry, Jiayang Pictures inevitably suffered a serious impact. Following the traditional pattern of shooting sh*T movies, they lost money one after another. At one point, they were facing the dilemma of going bankrupt and closing down. In 2012, Jiayang Pictures was acquired by Zhou Yi, a businessman from Hong Kong. After a series of restructuring and integration, it finally got rid of the predicament of being unable to make ends meet, and was barely able to maintain the situation. Zhou Yi is a real businessman, Chen Wenxiang commented. He only cares about profits, but he values credibility. When he acquired Jiayang Pictures, he directly fired 70% of the old staff. As a result, they were blocked at the door. It was a big deal at that time. Others say that he is a cold-blooded capitalist, but to be fair, if he didn't clean up the mess, Jiayang Pictures would still be finished. No matter how much money was invested, it would be useless. The headquarters of Jiayang Pictures was not far from Lu Chen's studio. It was less than a 10-minute drive. However, the roads in Hong Kong were very congested, so it took them almost half an hour to get there. The office of Jiayang Pictures was in an old office building. After Lu Chen and the others went up to the address, they soon met the general manager of Jiayang Pictures, Zhang Yifan. Zhang Yifan was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was wearing a suit, his hair was neatly combed, and he was quite strong. He had the aura of someone who had retired from the world of martial arts. Ha ha ha, brother Wenqiang. Seeing Chen Wenqiang, the general manager of Jiayang Pictures greeted him with a smile, and took the initiative to extend his hand. Long time no see. You are a rare guest. Chen Wenqiang was a little flattered. He knew Zhang Yifan, and it would be nonsense to say that they were friends. In the circle, there was still a big gap between the two of them. Others might not know, but judging from Zhang Yifan's attitude, they must have thought that they were old friends. But Chen Wenqiang was not an ordinary person after all. He did not get carried away by Zhang Yifan's enthusiasm. He also showed a happy smile and shook hands with Zhang Yifan. Boss Zhang, you really think too highly of me. Wenqiang doesn't deserve it. He let go of his hand and first introduced Lu Chen to him. This is Lu Chen, my current boss. Zhang Yifan's smile disappeared, and his expression became serious. He thoughtfully looked at Lu Chen, who was standing next to Chen Wenqiang. Lu Chen smiled and reached out to Zhang Yifan. Hello, boss Zhang. I've heard a lot about you. Zhang Yifan's expression changed again, and a smile appeared on his face again. He held Lu Chen's hand tightly and said, I should say that I've heard a lot about you. Lu Chen, I know you. You're a big star in the mainland. You really bring light to my humble place by coming to Jiayang Pictures. Lu Chen smiled and said, Boss Zhang, you're too polite. After some polite greetings, Lu Chen introduced Wan Xiaoquan to Zhang Yifan. Lu Chen, Wan Xiaoquan, and Chen Wenqiang were the three horses of the newly established Xiangjiang Film and Television Studio. The three of them came to Jiayang Pictures at the same time, which showed that they attached great importance to this cooperation. Zhang Yifan obviously understood that this was the sincerity of Lu Chen, and he also had the interest and sincerity of cooperation. So the two sides sat down smoothly and began to negotiate about the movie, A Chinese Ghost Story. Although Zhang Yifan's attitude was very good and sincere, when it came to specific cooperation matters, he showed the shrewdness of a film company's general manager, which was very difficult to deal with. Because of the disagreement on the most important proportion of shares, they quickly fell into a deadlock. So in the end, the two sides did not reach an agreement on the spot. Chapter 448. Dragging heavy steps, Ma Rongjin slowly walked out of the main gate of Lion Rock Film and Television City, ready to take a minibus back to his home in Tianshui. Lion Rock Film and Television City was the film and television shooting base of Xiangjiang, covering an area of more than 5,000 mu. Although the scale was not comparable to the three major domestic film and television bases, it was already a large project and a large site in Xiangjiang. This film and television shooting base was built during the boom period of Xiangjiang's film and television industry. After several expansions, it formed the current pattern, with a number of large-scale ancient and modern scenic spots. In addition to receiving film and television crews, it was also open to tourists. Many of Xiangjiang's films and television works were shot in this film and television city at the foot of Lion Rock Mountain, and the scenery catered to the characteristics of Xiangjiang's film industry. So far, it has an important position in the local film and television industry. Ma Rongjin could not remember how many times he had been in and out of Lion Rock Film and Television City. He was a student of the 7th Artist Training Class of ATV in the late 1980s. After graduation, he signed with ATV and began to play the old-fashioned career. After the end of the period, he entered the film industry. At that time, ghost films were popular in Xiangjiang. Ma Rongjin's image was good, and he was chosen by the director to play the role of a Mao Mountain Taoist priest in a zombie film. As a result, he became popular and was very popular for a few years. However, ghost films declined and were basically abandoned by the audience at the beginning of the new century. As a special actor, Ma Rongjin had to face the embarrassment of transformation, and his career plummeted. The business he invested in failed, and his wife and children left him. Ma Rongjin originally lived in Jiulong, but he had to sell his house to pay off his debts and moved to Tianshui for 10 years. The rich areas of Xiangjiang were mainly concentrated in Repulse Bay, Saikung District, Shek-o Banshan and so on. Julong was regarded as a gathering place for the middle class. As for the poor areas, they were Tianshui and Wudun. The huge gap in life and the heavy pressure of reality bent Ma Rongzhen's back, making him look at least 60 years old, with gray hair and a face full of vicissitudes. The famous brother Ma and Uncle Ma were now just old Ma. There were many people from Tianshui who came to Lion Rock Film and Television City to be extras, so there was a minibus station nearby. Near evening, a minibus was already full of people. Seeing this, Ma Rongzhen hurriedly rushed to get on the bus. If he missed this bus, the next one would be very late. There were no empty seats in the car, and the aisle was full of people. No one gave up their seats to Ma Rongzhen, the sweating old man. Everyone was playing with their phones indifferently, or simply closing their eyes to rest. Ma Rongzhen was used to this. He was no longer the glorious priest Ma of the past. Not many people here really thought highly of him. In Hong Kong, there were actually many old actors like Ma Rongzhen. Uncle Ma. Just as Ma Rongzhen was about to stand all the way home, a young man in the front row stood up and said, "My seat is for you, come and sit." Everyone looked at him as if he was an idiot. Ma Rongzhen also looked at him and recognized him as one of the extras she knew. She immediately smiled and said, "Lil Wu, what a coincidence. Why don't you sit by yourself? Your Uncle Ma isn't that old. It's more comfortable to stand." He got to know Lil Wu half a year ago. Lil Wu claimed to have watched many of his movies and was a fan of his. Lil Wu was a young man from the countryside. He had the enthusiasm and simplicity of the young people in the countryside. Others called Ma Rongzhen Old Ma, but he always called him Uncle Ma, and he had helped Ma Rongzhen a lot. Seeing him, Ma Rongzhen felt a surge of warmth in his heart. Ring. At this time, the phone in Ma Rongzhen's pocket suddenly rang. He waved at Lil Wu and quickly took out the phone. Is it my ex-wife asking for living expenses again? Ma Rongzhen thought to himself. He put the old phone to his ear and asked in a low voice, "Hello? Is this Ma Rongzhen, brother Ma?" The voice coming from the phone was very strange. Just now, Lil Wu called him Uncle Ma, and now someone called him Brother Ma. Ma Rongzhen couldn't describe his feelings. He quickly replied, "Yes, and you are?" The other party said with a smile, "I'm Chen Wenxiang. You may not remember me, but we had dinner together in Kowloon Tang 3 years ago. Brother Biao and Hu Zi were also there." Oh, hello. Ma Rongzhen remembered the dinner, but he really couldn't remember who the other party was. It just sounded a little familiar. Fortunately, the other party didn't have any intention of reminiscing. He asked directly, "Brother Ma, are you free these days?" "Am I free? Of course I'm free." Recently, Ma Rongzhen was not only free, but he was extremely free. He was now mingling in the Lion Rock Film Studio. And he was not much different from an ordinary extra. He was just playing a small role. He had a day's work to do and earn a day's salary to fill his stomach. "I'm free. What's the matter?" "Here's the thing," Chen Wenxiang said. "We're preparing to shoot a new movie here, and there's an important role in it that suits you very well, so I recommended you to the boss. Can you come for an audition?" New movie? New movie. An important role. Ma Rongzhen suddenly shivered and said eagerly, "Audition? No problem, I'll come right now." While he was talking to Chen Wenxiang, many people sitting in the minibus pricked up their ears to listen. When they heard Ma Rongzhen say the word, audition, everyone felt incredulous. Someone was looking for Ma Rongzhen for an audition? Auditions were not just for show, and not every Tom, Dick, or Harry was qualified to audition. At least, actors had to audition for roles in movies or TV series that had some weight. Ma Rongzhen, this old salted fish, was going to make a comeback? Most of the people in the minibus knew Ma Rongzhen and knew his past, so they were surprised. Which film company would ask this old guy for an audition nowadays? Chen Wenxiang didn't expect it either. He didn't expect Ma Rongzhen to be so impatient. He turned around and asked Lu Chen a few words, then said to Ma Rongzhen, "How about this? Come to Shunji restaurant in Kowloon Tong. We'll wait for you there. Call me when you arrive." Okay. Ma Rongzhen straightened his back and became energetic, as if he had become 10 years younger in an instant. His voice became a lot louder. "I'll be right there." After ending the call, Ma Rongjin looked around and saw that the people in the minibus were looking at him with complicated expressions. Disdain, bewilderment, curiosity, and envy. He suddenly had the urge to laugh out loud. Then Ma Rongjin saw Lil Wu, who had given up his seat to him just now. Lil Wu was smiling, obviously happy for him. Ma Rongjin felt a surge of hot blood. He reached out to grab Lil Wu's arm and said, "Come with me, I'll take you to meet the boss of the movie. Maybe you can get a role." Lil Wu was pulled out of the minibus by him with a dumbfounded look on his face. Low curses came from the minibus. "But we don't even know if we can get it. What are you so proud of?" Ma Rongjin didn't hear them at all. At this moment, his mind was filled with only one thought. "I'm going to make a movie." Chapter 449. Uncle Ma, where are we going? Uncle Ma, which film company is looking for you? Uncle Ma, Xiao Wu, who had been pulled out of the minibus by Ma Rongjin, finally came to his senses. Suddenly, he could not help but blurt out countless questions. He was full of uncertainty, as if he had suddenly been hit by a pie in the sky. Can I really get a role? Xiao Wu had just turned 20 this year. After graduating from high school, he had come out to make a living. He had grown up in a remote village in Yuanlong, and was still ignorant of everything in the bustling big city of Hong Kong. But Xiao Wu was very clear that this was likely to be a chance for him to change his life. He instinctively grabbed Ma Rongjin tightly. Ma Rongjin flagged down a taxi on the side of the road. After getting into the car and sitting down, he said to Lil Wu earnestly, "Lil Wu, I don't know which company hired me to act in a movie, but no matter what, as long as I can successfully audition for the role, how about you be Uncle Ma's assistant for now?" Ma Rongjin had been famous in the past. At his peak, he had 4 or 5 assistants and bodyguards with him. Although he was now down and out, he could not be looked down upon. Therefore, he pulled Xiao Wu over, on the one hand, to take care of him, on the other hand, to support himself. Xiao Wu nodded blankly. Assistant? What a high-class word. He had worked as an extras in the Lion Rock film and television city and had seen many stars' assistants. Some of them were even more arrogant than the stars themselves. They were definitely existences that a nobody like him envied. Even if he was Uncle Ma's assistant, it was better than getting a small role with only a few lines, right? Thank you, Uncle Ma. Ma Rongjin patted Xiao Wu with relief and said, "When you see the big boss later, talk less and look more. You must be polite and don't screw me up. By the way," he said to the taxi driver, "Brother, please take us to the nearest clothing store." The taxi drivers in Hong Kong were generally older because young people did not like to do this hard, tiring and low-paying job. The taxi driver looked even older than Ma Rongjin. Ma Rongjin suddenly thought of a problem. Both of them were wearing the costumes of extras and smelled of sweat. It would be too embarrassing to meet the boss of the movie like this, so they had to change into clean clothes. He was a little regretful that he had agreed too hastily just now. Fortunately, there were a lot of ready-made clothing stores in Xiangjiang that provided clothing rental services, so what he needed the most right now was to borrow a set of clothes that were at least passable to wear. Of course, Lil Wu would be there too. For this opportunity, Ma Rongjin intended to go all out. While Ma Rongjin and Xiao Wu were changing their clothes, Chen Wenxiang accompanied Lu Qin and Wan Xiaoquan to Shenji Restaurant, which was located in the bustling area of Kowloon Tong. Chen Wenxiang had already booked a private room. Today, the director of the studio took Lu Qin and the others to visit more than half of Xiangjiang. In the morning, they went to Jiayang Pictures to discuss cooperation, and in the afternoon, they went to several places, mainly to let Lu Qin familiarize himself with the basic facilities of film and television production in Xiangjiang. In fact, when Ma Rongjin was an extras in Lion Rock, Lu Qin and the others were also visiting the studio. According to the plan, most of the scenes of the new movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, would be shot here. Lu Qin was quite satisfied with the hardware facilities of Lion Rock Studio, especially the abandoned ancient temple landscape at the foot of Lion Rock, which was very suitable to be decorated as the main scene of the movie, Lanrua Temple. After seeing the shooting site, they inevitably discussed the roles and actors. In the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, Lu Qin planned to play the role of the male lead Ning Kai-chen. Originally, he had thought of letting Chen Feier play the role of Nie Xiaoqian, but the latter had no free time at the moment, so he had to find another suitable actor. In addition to Nie Xiaoqian, there was also a very important and eye-catching role in the movie, and that was Yan Qixia. In a Chinese ghost story, Yan Qixia was set to hate evil, be skilled in magic, have a wild and unrestrained personality, and still have a bit of a child's heart. To play this role, they had to find a real veteran actor. When Lu Chen and Wan Xiaoquan talked, Chen Wenxiang recommended Ma Rongjin to Lu Chen, the famous veteran actor who played the roles of Mao Mountain Taoist priest and Zhong Kuei. Lu Chen was unfamiliar with Ma Rongjin's name, but he did have some impression of the Mao Mountain Taoist priest played by the latter. He remembered watching a certain Xiangjiang zombie movie when he was a child. Therefore, he agreed to let Ma Rongjin give it a try. He did not expect that as soon as Chen Wenxiang called, the other party could not wait to come over, even though it was already evening. Ma Rongjin is also unlucky. Sitting in the private room, Chen Wenxiang personally picked up the teapot and poured a cup of hot tea for Lu Chen. He said with great emotion, Ma Rongjin married a wife who was 10 years younger than him. She was the flower of the TVB's artist class at that time. So he was very doted on and even gave birth to a son for him. Everyone was really envious of him. In the end, who would have thought that Ma Rongjin's wife would have an affair with his agent? Ma Rongjin caught them in the act, and it caused a huge uproar. In the end, they divorced. Ma Rongjin really lost both his money and his life. The money he worked so hard to earn and invested in his business were all taken away by this adulterous couple. When they divorced, his assets were divided, and he even lost his son. Wan Xiaoquan asked curiously, why? Chen Wenxiang chuckled. His son is not his biological son. Lu Chen and Wan Xiaoquan were speechless. Chen Wenxiang continued. After this blow, Ma Rongjin's career has been ruined. Of course, it is also because of the market. So he has basically disappeared. I had a meal with him a few years ago, and he is very down and out. Ma Rongjin is a very good person. Unfortunately, he met the wrong person. Wan Xiaoquan sighed and said, in today's society, good people may not necessarily be rewarded. Chen Wenxiang grabbed a handful of melon seeds and scattered them on the table. He said, bad people will also get their retribution. His agent, whose surname is Song, fooled around with his ex-wife for a few years and squandered all the money he got from swindling. Then he courted death by seducing the concubine of a leader of the Hongqing gang. In the end, he was hit by a big truck and died on the street. It is said that his skin was crushed. Lu Chen and Wan Xiaoquan looked at each other. Ma Rongjin's story could be made into a movie. Ring ring ring. While they were talking, Chen Wenxiang's cell phone rang. He immediately picked it up and smiled. Brother Ma, you are here? I will come down to pick you up. After hanging up, Chen Wenxiang said to Lu Chen, Ma Rongjin is here. I will go down first. Lu Chen nodded. Okay. No matter what, Ma Rongjin was a senior in the industry. Even if he was down and out, he should still be respected. It was most appropriate for Chen Wenxiang to step up. Chapter 450. Stepping into the box, Ma Rongjin immediately saw Lu Chen sitting in the main seat. Compared with Wan Xiaoquan and Zhang Xiaofeng who were sitting next to him, Lu Chen was like a star in the night. He could be distinguished from the crowd at a glance and leave a deep impression. First of all, he was handsome. Lu Chen's handsomeness was different from the popular handsome men in the entertainment circle. Although he was not extremely handsome, his face was well-defined, his eyebrows were straight and his nose bridge was straight. He had the firmness and calmness of a young man, which made people instinctively feel that he was a trustworthy person. This is the boss of the film company? Ma Rongjin couldn't believe it and couldn't help but be stunned. To be honest, Wan Xiaoquan was more like a boss, and Lu Chen was a star artist under his company. It was more normal for him to be the male lead of the new film. While he was stunned, Lu Chen had already stood up with a smile, and took the initiative to step forward and extend his hand. Uncle Ma, I've heard a lot about you. After all, Ma Rongjin was an old man who had been in the entertainment circle for decades. He immediately reacted and shook Lu Chen's hand. Hello. Chen Wenxiang seized the opportunity to introduce, Brother Ma, this is my current boss Lu Chen. He is from the mainland, and has just opened a film studio in Hong Kong. The office is in Rongjin Building, which has an area of more than 2,000 square feet. Ma Rongjin was a native of Hong Kong, so he understood the meaning of Chen Wenxiang's words as soon as he heard it. Rongjin Building was located in the Xiangpan business district of West Harbor. Although the rent of West Harbor office buildings was not as high as that of Central and Admiralty, there were a large number of TV stations, newspapers and magazines, and film and television entertainment companies around it. The rent was never cheap, not to mention the area of 2,000 square feet. Chen Wenxiang was hinting at Lu Chen's strength. Ma Rongjin was in awe. "Boss Lu, you are really young and promising." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Uncle Ma, you are my senior. Just call me Lu Chen." Boss Lu sounds awkward. Having experienced the ups and downs of life, she was used to the fickleness of human nature. Ma Rongjin was very touched by Lu Chen's respect and politeness. She didn't expect that someone would still respectfully call him senior. The entertainment circle in Hong Kong was a circle where the popular ones were the white ones. Everyone supported the popular stars and trampled on the outdated ones. The younger generation didn't care whether you were a senior or not. They only cared about how popular and how much background you had. Ma Rongjin was now working in the Lion Rock Film City, and many people knew him. Even an ordinary handyman dared to order him around. Although Lu Chen is from the mainland, with Chen Wenxiang around, it is impossible for him to know nothing about his situation. It was precisely because of this that Lu Chen's attitude was so precious. Chen Wenxiang added, "Mr. Lu Chen is a popular star in the mainland. He has released 2 solo albums and acted in 2 phenomenal TV series since his debut more than a year ago. This time he came to Xiangjiang to make a movie." When Ma Rongjin heard that, he couldn't describe the feeling in his heart with words. He didn't doubt that Chen Wenxiang was bragging for Lu Chen, because there was no need to do so. No matter what Lu Chen's identity was, as long as he could come up with the money to hire him to shoot a movie, it was enough. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Let's sit down and talk." Everyone sat down again, and Chen Wenxiang introduced Wan Xiaoquan and Zhang Xiaofeng to Ma Rongjin. Ma Rongjin also introduced his assistant Lil Wu to Lu Chen and the others. Lil Wu sat on the side, trembling with fear. He didn't even dare to breathe heavily. He had only seen such a scene in movies and TV series before. It felt a little like a dream. Chen Wenxiang called the waiter to order. The menu was given to Lu Chen first. Lu Chen randomly ordered a few dishes and handed them to Ma Rongjin. "Uncle Ma, order whatever you like." Ma Rongjin hurriedly refused. "No, I'm fine with anything. You can order." After a pause, he asked tentatively, "Mr. Lu, have you finished writing the script for the movie?" Lu Chen handed the menu to Chen Wenxiang and said with a smile, "I've already written the script. If Uncle Ma wants to read it, you can do it now." He nodded at Zhang Xiaofeng, who took out a thick draft paper from his briefcase and handed it to Ma Rongjin. "Thank you." Ma Rongjin almost couldn't wait to take it and read it. He was so serious and engrossed that he even forgot the existence of Lu Chen and the others. It wasn't until the waiter served the first hot dish that he snapped out of his daze. Although he was already hungry and the aroma of the food was extremely tempting, Ma Rongjin's mind was not on eating or drinking. He held the script and looked straight at Lu Chen. "Mr. Lu, which screenwriter wrote this script?" It was so well written. Although the story was adapted from Strange Tales from a Chinese studio, there were many wonderful elements added in it. The personalities of the protagonists were distinct, the characters were lifelike, and the story plot was full of ups and downs. Now there was a strange phenomenon in the Xiangjiang film and television industry. That was, the script was made up and relied on the celebrities to act cute. The screenwriters were eager for quick success, and wanted to cater to the audience's taste, but the result was often the opposite of what they wanted. The decline of the Xiangjiang film industry was also closely related to the absence of a god-level screenwriter. Most of the outstanding screenwriters of the older generation had already withered. Ma Rongjin had been in the industry for decades. He had filmed many movies and read countless scripts. The script of a Chinese ghost story, in his hand, evoked an impulse that Ma Rongjin hadn't felt for a long time. It was the impulse of an actor who was eager to try out a good script. The yin qixia in the script was simply tailor-made for him. Ma Rongjin had a strong feeling that if he missed this movie, he would regret it for the rest of his life. At this moment, he really wanted to say loudly to Lu Chen, "I'll take this movie, even if it's free." However, Ma Rongzhen's remaining rationality made him forcibly suppress his impulse. That was because he had already lost a lot of points for his performance today. If he met a shrewd boss, it would be enough for him to play with him in the palm of his hand. It was impossible for Ma Rongzhen to really not want money. He still had to support his family. Chen Wenxiang smiled and said, "The script was written by our boss himself. He is also the male lead." When he answered, Chen Wenxiang glanced at Lu Chen and used his eyes to ask Lu Chen for instructions. Lu Chen understood what he meant and nodded slightly. Chen Wenxiang had good taste. When he first saw Ma Rongzhen, Lu Chen felt that he was very suitable for the role of Yan Qixia, be it in terms of appearance or temperament. Of course, his temperament was still lacking a lot, but he believed that it would not be a problem for an experienced actor. After getting Lu Chen's approval, Chen Wenxiang's smile became even brighter. He continued, "I recommended you to him to play Yan Qixia. I wonder if you're interested? Are you interested? Are you interested?" Ma Rongzhen squeezed the script in his hand tightly. There was a loud roar in his heart. Even his divine soul was trembling. Chapter 451. Using all his strength, Ma Rongzhen didn't let himself lose his composure on the spot. He swallowed his saliva dryly and said in a deep voice, "If Child Lu can give me this opportunity, I will definitely play Yan Qixia well." Ma Rongzhen didn't beat his chest to swear, nor did he look happy and proud. These simple words showed his confidence and determination to win, which was more sincere than any honeyed words. Lu Chen felt his confidence, which was the pride of an old actor. At this moment, this old actor in Hong Kong who had been down for a long time finally showed a trace of his sharpness. The sharpness that hadn't been worn down by hardship and hardship. This was the Yan Qixia that Lu Chen wanted. Lu Chen nodded and said with a smile, "Let's eat first, the dishes are getting cold." This big was beyond Ma Rongzhen's expectation. He was like a defendant waiting for the final decision of the judge, but the latter announced a temporary adjournment. It was really tantalizing. To be honest, Ma Rongzhen had taken out all his courage and confidence just now. If he had to do it again, he might not be able to perform better. However, the delicious food in Shunji restaurant soothed Ma Rongzhen's depression. This old restaurant was famous for its seafood cooking, which was loved by all the foodies in Hong Kong. In the past, Ma Rongzhen often came to Shunji restaurant, but that was at least 10 years ago. 10 years. Tasting the familiar taste again, the old actor had the impulse to burst into tears. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, everyone was full and asked the waiter to take away the leftovers and replace them with tea. It was time to talk about the real issue. Chen Wenxiang asked directly, "Brother Ma, what are your conditions in terms of pay? Now that Child Lu is here, we can talk face to face. If there are no differences, this role is yours." Now the role played by Chen Wenxiang was equivalent to Lu Chen's spokesperson. As the boss, of course, Lu Chen couldn't directly bargain with Ma Rongzhen about pay, so naturally he would come forward. Lu Chen was satisfied with Ma Rongzhen, but Chen Wenxiang was easy to negotiate. Ma Rongzhen hesitated. When he came to Shunji restaurant, he had considered this problem, and it was also the problem that made him scratch his head the most. When Ma Rongzhen's career was at its peak, the highest salary for a movie was as high as 2 to 3 million yuan. If compared with the housing price in Xiangjiang at that time, it was equivalent to 10 to 20 million yuan now. But the past was the past, and the present was the present. A hero did not mention his past achievements. Now he had fallen to the point of mixing in extras and small supporting roles. The little money he earned was barely enough to support his family. Although Ma Rongzhen was divorced a long time ago, he still had a frail and sickly mother at home. He was a filial son, and most of the money that he worked hard to earn was used to take care of his mother. To him, the role of Yan Qixia was an opportunity to change his fate. Therefore, when it came to the issue of remuneration, he was very conflicted. He did not know how to quote a price. Back then, he could have asked his agent to negotiate with Chen Wenxiang for as much as he wanted. All right, let's not talk about that agent who had been crushed into a pulp. Chen Wenxiang was an experienced man, and of course, he understood Ma Rongzhen's dilemma. He smiled and said, "Brother Ma, just give me a number. Of course, we can also wait for you to hire an agent first." No need. Ma Rongzhen instinctively jumped up. Not to mention whether he could afford an agent now. Hadn't he been cheated enough by his agent in the past? Gritting his teeth, Ma Rongjin stretched out his palm and said, 50,000. When he offered this price, he was very nervous. He was afraid that he would miss the opportunity if he offered a high price, but if he offered a low price, people would look down on him. In fact, for a very important role, a salary of 50,000 yuan was already very low. However, there were many low-budget productions in Xiangjiang, and it was normal for the main actors to receive a salary of 30 to 50,000 yuan. Ma Rongjin referred to this standard. He was now working in the Lion Rock Film and Television City. His daily salary for extras was about 2 to 300 yuan, but he did not have a show every day. He only earned 50 to 60,000 yuan a year. Ma Rongjin did not know that the investment budget for A Chinese Ghost Story was 30 million yuan. 50,000 yuan. Lu Chun and Chen Wenxiang looked at each other. Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting on the side, felt sad. It was only 50,000 yuan. Lu Chun thought for a moment and said, "Okay, if the movie makes money in the future, I will give Uncle Ma a big red packet." Since Ma Rongjin offered 50,000 yuan, although the salary was a little low, he could not take the initiative to increase the price. As long as he gave a red packet to make up for it in the future, it would be in line with the rules of the circle and would not be a laughing stock. Thank you, young Master Lu." Ma Rongjin felt as if a big stone had been lifted from his heart, and his old face beamed like a flower. Lu Chen said again, "Uncle Ma, I will ask Uncle Chang to give you 20,000 yuan in advance, and 30,000 yuan after the shooting. What do you think?" This was Lu Chen's consideration. Ma Rongjin's situation was so bad, and making a movie was not something that could be done in a day or two. He couldn't let him starve during this period, could he? Instead of letting Ma Rongjin take the initiative to propose it, it was better to help him in a big way. Ma Rongjin was speechless. "Thank you, young Master Lu." Chen Wenxiang watched from the side. He was also very impressed. Lu Chen's behavior was not like that of a newcomer at all. He was very sophisticated and thoughtful. If he followed him, he would definitely have a bright future. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Then let's have tea instead of wine. First, let's wish a successful cooperation." Cheers. While Lu Chen was talking and laughing in the Shunji restaurant in Kowloon Tong, the news about him was spreading in the Hong Kong forum, becoming the focus of countless netizens in Hong Kong. Has anyone heard this song? The post was uploaded to the pop music section last night. In less than 24 hours, it had already received over 500,000 views and 70,000 comments. It was the hottest topic on the homepage of the Hong Kong forum. In the afternoon, someone uploaded a scanned picture to the pop music section. The content of the picture was the report on the second page of the Polo Daily. The poster linked this picture with the "Has anyone heard this song?" video in the hot post, and it immediately attracted a large number of views and comments. The face and the clothes are exactly the same. It must be the same person. Huh? Didn't they say that Lu Chen is Chen Feier's boyfriend? Why is he together with Xu Jing? Who can tell me what's going on? Onlookers, however, soon someone posted a statement on Xu Jing's blog, dispelling the rumor. However, the post that was originally very popular in the pop music section was reposted to the Hong Kong blogs and tagged Xu Jing. As a result, the influence of the post continued to grow. Even Lu Chen himself did not expect that inadvertently, he began to become popular on the internet in Hong Kong. More and more netizens in Hong Kong knew his name, as well as his achievements. But what really attracted the attention of the Hong Kong blogs was a blog post that appeared at 9 p.m. Chapter 452. In front of this young man, Hong Kong's pop music creators should be ashamed. The long title had a strong sense of criticism. When this long blog post appeared on Hong Kong blogs, it immediately attracted the attention of many people inside and outside the circle, who forwarded and commented on it. Because the blogger who posted the blog post was a very famous music critic on Hong Kong blogs, Madman Nanhai. No one knew the true identity of Madman Nanhai. He was quite mysterious, but it was certain that he must be an insider of Hong Kong's pop music industry. He was familiar with the inside stories and rules of the industry, and his comments on local singers were very sharp. What made him famous was his venomous tongue. His attacks on the pop music world and pop singers in Hong Kong were merciless and blunt. Some singers even almost committed suicide because of his scolding. Such a person must have made countless enemies, so in the special social environment of Hong Kong, it was natural and necessary to keep his identity mysterious. However, South Sea Madman's venomous tongue was not the kind of insulting personal attacks. He was targeting problems in the music industry, criticizing the unhealthy phenomena in the music industry, as well as the singer's professionalism. It could be said that he had a target in mind. It was precisely because of this that Madman Nanhai had more than 500,000 fans on Hong Kong blogs. Many fans often read his comments before buying a singer's album. If the comments were too bad, they would definitely not buy it. However, if the new album could get a thumbs up from Madman Nanhai's blog, it would often drive a lot of sales and attract those fans who trusted Madman Nanhai. Madman Nanhai's evaluation criteria were different. A thumbs up meant recognition and praise, 2 thumbs up meant full recommendation, and not to be missed, and the worship star represented the highest honor. In the more than 10 years since he opened his blog, no more than 10 albums had been given 2 thumbs up, and the worship star had only appeared twice. The corresponding 2 albums had sold more than 1 million copies and were very popular in Hong Kong. Therefore, many singers and stars in Hong Kong loved, hated, and feared this madman. Everyone wanted to see Madman Nanhai give a thumbs up to their works, but they were afraid that the thumbs up would be upside down, which represented ruthless contempt and ridicule. In this blog post, Madman Nanhai gave a 3rd worship star to a person and a song for the first time, and used this as a topic to severely criticize the creators of Hong Kong's pop music. This person and this song were none other than Lu Chun, who sang The Love of a Lifetime at La Dolce Vita 97. The blog post reposted the most popular video from the pop music section of the Hong Kong forum. Nanhai Madman analyzed the brilliance of The Love of My Life in detail and thought that it was one of the best Cantonese songs in the past decade. It was a masterpiece that could become a classic. What made him feel distressed was that this Cantonese masterpiece was actually written by a mainland musician who had just arrived in Xiangjiang. Furthermore, it was a young man who had only debuted for more than a year and did not have a music professional background. In front of this talented young man, the pop music creators of Hong Kong should feel ashamed, because when the older generation of songwriters retired or passed away, they could not inherit the essence of the skills and character style of their predecessors. They were vain and impetuous in their eagerness for quick success and instant benefits. Without a true love for music, it was impossible to create good works. Many music creators in Xiangjiang were used to bringing things with them. The phenomenon of plagiarizing, imitating, and following the trend of Europe, America, Japan, and South Korea was serious. Some even directly rewrote the lyrics of foreign pop songs, seriously killing the efforts and dreams of those serious original creators. The funny thing was that many people in the industry realized that if this went on, Hong Kong's pop music would be finished sooner or later, or it would become a place where copycat music prevailed. However, no one tried to change all this. They muddled along, making the status of songwriters increasingly lower in the pop music world, creating a vicious circle. Many new so-called idol singers could not sing well after leaving the recording studio. They even had to lip-sync at concerts. All kinds of so-called new music styles were popular, causing the current Hong Kong pop music world to be in chaos. However, in such a bad situation, many people in the industry were still immersed in the glory of the past, indulging in the golden age of the 1980s and 1990s, completely forgetting that more than a decade had passed in the new century. If they did not keep up with the pace of the times, they would inevitably be abandoned by the times. And Lu Chun used this original Cantonese masterpiece, The Love of Life, to tell everyone the talent and strength of the new generation of mainland musicians, as well as their attitude towards pop music. This song was like a slap in the face of those who laughed at and despised mainland pop music, letting them know that there was nothing to be proud of in the current Hong Kong pop music world. They should be ashamed and wake up. This blog post of Nanhai Madman was very long, with thousands of words. In addition to praising The Love of Life, he severely criticized the chaos in the Hong Kong music world, and pointed the finger at the creators. Hong Kong's entertainment industry was very developed. Decades of prosperity, had created a large number of professionals. Although it had declined now, there were still a large number of pop music creators and singers. Hong Kong's blogs were undoubtedly the most important public opinion position of Hong Kong's new media. Most people in the entertainment industry had their own blogs and fans. Updating and browsing blogs had also become one of their daily activities. Nanhai Madman directly slapped them in the face. Few people who were poked in their sore spot were willing to swallow it. Naturally, they launched a tit-for-tat counterattack on the blog, refuting the former's remarks. Nanhai Madman's identity was mysterious, but he was not alone on Hong Kong's blogs. He had a large number of fans who supported him. In the face of the fierce counterattack, he did not show weakness and fought back. Blog posts and comments on both sides kept appearing, and the firepower of the attacks became more and more fierce. Lu Chen, who was used as a powerful weapon by Nanhai Madman, along with the love of life, was undoubtedly targeted by a large number of people. All kinds of doubts, belittling, and ridiculing continued. Many people still had prejudice against the mainland, thinking that the love of life could not be Lu Chen's original work, and that he must have plagiarized or copied it from somewhere. It was just that no evidence had been found for the time being. This war quickly spread from the blogs to the forums, and a large number of ordinary netizens joined the debate. Therefore, without Lu Chen even knowing it, he suddenly became popular on the internet in Hong Kong. At the same time, he was dragged into a lot of hatred by Nanhai Madman. Even if he was lying down, he would still be attacked. Chapter 453. Back at home in Repulse Bay, Lu Chen had just taken a shower when he received a call from his assistant, Li Jun. Only then did he know that he had become the focus of the controversy in Hong Kong's blog. In just a few hours, the number of his Hong Kong blog followers had skyrocketed from dozens to more than 100,000. Lu Chen had more than 20 million followers in the Domestic Waves blog, but he was not famous in Hong Kong. In addition, he had no foundation in Hong Kong, and was still trying to adapt to the environment here, so he had no intention of creating hype for the time being. As Lu Chen's assistant, Li Jun had already applied for a real name verification for his Hong Kong blog. His identity was that of a famous mainland singer and actor, and he had already been verified. However, as of yesterday, Lu Chen only had 57 followers in Hong Kong, and there was only one blog post published by his studio. The number of clicks and comments were pitifully low. The content of the blog post was nothing more than, "I have just registered as a Hong Kong blog member, please advise me." Because Lu Chen had been very low-key when he went to Hong Kong, the domestic media and fans did not know his whereabouts. It was normal for such a situation to occur. Otherwise, his fan support group could easily help him increase the number of Hong Kong blog followers by tens or even millions. In the end, it was all because of a blog post by a well-known Hong Kong blogger and music critic, Nanhai Quangren, that he was instantly pushed to the forefront of the discussion. The number of comments on that official blog post had reached tens of thousands, and it had also been forwarded a lot. When Lu Chen turned on the computer and logged into his Hong Kong blog account, he was shocked by thousands of system messages and blog private message prompts. It took a lot of effort for Lu Chen to completely figure out the ins and outs of this matter. Last night, his performance of The Love of My Life at La Dolce Vita 97 was taken by a customer and posted on the forum. Then, it was used by the Nanhai Madman as a weapon to attack the pop music industry and composers in Hong Kong. As a result, it caused a blog war. And as a key figure, he was quickly found by the Xiangjiang online blog name. Because of this, he actually made it to the hot search list, causing the number of followers to increase sharply. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his innocent accusation. These surging fans were not just regular fans. Most of them were passers-by who came to watch the show. There were also some anti-fans who scolded and ridiculed him in various comments and private messages. Go back to the mainland. Xiangjiang does not welcome you. Isn't it just a song? What was so great about it? You really know how to create hype. Tell me the truth. How much did you pay Madman Nanhai for him to boast about you like this? Where did you copy this song from? You look down on our Hong Kong music creators. Do you think you're very powerful? Eat shit. There were even more unpleasant obscenities, which were directly blocked by the smart identification system of the blog, but it was enough for Lu Chen to see the other side of some Xiangjiang people on the internet. However, there were also many people who liked The Love of My Life. They expressed their support for Lu Chen. They felt that this song was just as Nanhai Madman had said. It was one of the best Cantonese pop songs in the past decade. These newly increased fans were eager for Lu Chen to release a single and create more and better works. Welcome to Xiangjiang. Mr. Lu Chen, although I didn't know you before today, I'm already a fan of yours. The Love of My Life is so good. You sang it so well. I watched that video 10 times on loop. Is this song written for your girlfriend? Thank you for letting me hear a good song. After spending more than half an hour, Lu Chen finally browsed through some of the comments and messages. He ignored the cursing and ridiculing anti-fans, and felt that he needed to say something. After serious consideration, Lu Chen posted a new blog post on Hong Kong's blog for the first time. The title of the blog post was "Thank You, Friends of Xiangjiang." In this blog post, Lu Chen expressed his gratitude to the Xiangjiang fans who supported him and liked his works. He specifically explained that he had come to Xiangjiang to set up a film studio, and was preparing to shoot a movie. Therefore, he had no intention of releasing a single or album for the time being. This song, The Love of a Lifetime, was Lu Chen's first Cantonese work. He sang it impromptu with his friends at La Dolce Vita 97 in Lan Kwai Fong last night. So it wasn't a deliberate hype. He didn't even know the madman from Nanhai. In the end, Lu Chen expressed in the blog post that he liked the prosperity and beauty of Xiangjiang very much. However, he was very disgusted with the comments and attacks of some people on the blog. It was contrary to the open and tolerant image of Xiangjiang. Lu Chen's blog posts could be said to be polite and restrained. His words were gentle but firm. He was neither aggressive nor timid. What he wrote was extraordinary writing skills. After the blog post was posted, it quickly received a large number of reposts and comments. The most obvious change was that the number of people who maliciously attacked and insulted him had decreased a lot. To Lu Chen's surprise, half an hour after the blog post was published, Lu Gangsheng, the most popular blogger in Hong Kong, and a big shot in the entertainment industry in Hong Kong, actually liked the new blog post, commented on it and reposted it. Lu Tianwang first welcomed Lu Chen to come to Xiangjiang to develop. He had just finished watching the bar video of The Love of My Life, and expressed that he also liked the song very much. He hoped that he could have the opportunity to cooperate with Lu Chen. In addition, he asked Lu Chen not to care about those malicious comments, because those people could not represent the people of Xiangjiang. Lu Gangsheng's blog post immediately suppressed the audience. This Xiangjiang superstar who was born in the 70s was also a household name in the mainland. He was born in poverty but was extremely hardworking. His personal achievements were inseparable from the Xiangjiang entertainment industry in the 80s and 90s. He was one of the symbols of the latter's prosperity. He was a real big shot in film, television, and music. Although Lu Gangsheng, who was in his 40s, had passed his peak, his position in the hearts of the people of Xiangjiang was unique. He also had a great influence in Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. This Lu Tianwang's Hong Kong blog had more than 17 million fans, big enough to surpass the population of Xiangjiang. However, this was not because of his fame, but because the registered members of the Hong Kong blog included Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau, as well as the Chinese circles in some Southeast Asian countries. Lu Gangsheng's support for Lu Chen was undoubtedly a heavy slap in the face to those anti-fans. It was undoubtedly a great help to Lu Chen's foothold in Xiangjiang. Moreover, his hope to cooperate with Lu Chen was enough to let people's imagination run wild. After all these twists and turns, Lu Chen could be considered to be really famous in Xiangjiang. The number of people who knew him suddenly increased by tens of thousands. Chapter 454. Lu Gangsheng's story could be written into an inspirational novel. His legend belonged to Xiangjiang, and it had witnessed the glorious past of Xiangjiang's pop music and Xiangjiang's movies. Lu Chen really didn't expect that this superstar would actually follow his blog and give him support and praise in a very friendly manner. Lu Chen could also be considered one of Lu Gangsheng's fans. When he was a child, he had watched many movies and TV series starring Lu Gangsheng, such as Big Lawyer, Hong Kong Hero, Life and Death Rescue, Brave Detective, Sword of Wudong, and so on. They were all popular works at that time, And there were also Lu Gongxing's records. Until now in his hometown, Lu Chen still had more than a dozen CD albums of this king of Xiangjiang. Although the current Lu Chen had already stood at a considerable height in the industry, he still had great respect for this senior who was truly virtuous and artistic. Therefore, Lu Chen immediately replied to Lu Gongxing's comment and sincerely thanked this superstar. He expressed that he was his fan and was looking forward to working with his idol. Lu Gongxing had a lot of fans on Hong Kong's blog. Lu Chen's respectful attitude had undoubtedly won their favor and caused the number of his fans to increase steadily. As a result, when Lu Chen had just arrived at the studio the next day, his assistant Li Zhen reported to him happily, "Young Master Lu, you're really amazing. Even Lu Tianwang liked it. Now your fans have increased to 300,000. In China, it was common for popular figures to gain tens or even millions of fans on Waves's blog overnight. However, in Hong Kong's blogs, such a rapid increase in fans was quite rare. Many celebrities were keen on running blogs because the more fans they had, the more benefits they would bring, including direct and indirect benefits. It was already common for celebrities to endorse advertising products on blogs. Hong Kong blogs were no exception. The new generation of artists in Xiangjiang all liked to use blogs. Li Zhen had seen a lot of them, so she was naturally happy for Lu Chen. This was because Lu Gongxing Lu Tianwang had helped Lu Chen increase his fans. It was really a great honor. Lu Chen, on the other hand, only smiled faintly and quickly threw it to the back of his mind, because he did not need to rely on this to earn money and popularity. Yesterday was more like an accident. Nothing more than an accident within a pleasant surprise. He would not get carried away. However, Lu Chen still underestimated Lu Gongxing's influence in Hong Kong, as well as his influence on himself. He hadn't even warmed his seat in the office when a visitor came. There were 5 people, 3 of whom Lu Chen met a few days ago. Madame Jin's entertainment company's boss, Jean Mingxiu, and her 2 goddaughters, Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan. As for the other 2, they should be assistants. Lu Chen was a little surprised. He had promised Madame Jean at Xu Jing's charity dinner that he would compose a debut song for Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan's twins within 3 days. However, the time was not up yet. Why did they take the initiative to come here? Were they afraid that he would run away? Lu Chen was amused by his own thoughts. He received a few uninvited guests in the reception room. "Madame Jean, what are you doing?" After sitting down, Lu Chen asked curiously, "What's the matter?" Madame Jean said, "Actually, it's not a big deal. I just brought my 2 daughters here to get familiar with each other. In the future, I'll ask them to visit you often and learn more things." Lu Chen couldn't help laughing. "You're too polite. I'm afraid I can't teach them anything." Madame Jean said with a smile, "Young Master Lu is really polite. Even Heavenly King Lu praised you. It's more than enough for you to teach my 2 daughters." Lu Chen suddenly understood. It was because of last night's incident. Madame Jean obviously already knew about the news on the Hong Kong blog, so she specially brought the twins here to show off. His status and weight in the Xiangjiang entertainment industry had changed because of Lu Gongxing's praise. Madame Jean just wanted to get closer to him. Simply put, the song written by Lu Chen for the twins, who was originally unknown in Xiangjiang, and the song written by Lu Chen, who was now famous, would have a completely different publicity effect. Although this approach was a bit snobbish, she had her reasons. The suggestion of Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan to form a group was made by Lu Chen. He was the one who came up with the name twins, and he also took care of the 2 girls' debut songs. There was no problem at all with the title of teacher. In the Xiangjiang entertainment industry, this relationship was actually very close. Madame Jean wanted to kiss him even more. After understanding Madame Jean's intentions, Lu Chen couldn't help but laugh. He thought for a moment and said, "That's great. I've already written the song for the twins. I'll give it to you now." "You've already written it?" Madame Jean was really shocked. Originally, Lu Chen promised her 3 days. She actually didn't care about 3 to 5 days. A good song needed time to polish, and it wouldn't be beautiful if she rushed it. Therefore, today Madame Jean just brought the twins to familiarize herself with them. She didn't mean to rush the manuscript. She didn't expect Lu Chen to actually say that he had already written it. It had only been less than 2 days. It couldn't be that he bought a half-hearted work with 1 million yuan, right? Although Madame Jean didn't really care about 1 million yuan, if that was really the case, she wouldn't be happy either. Of course, as an experienced person, on the surface, Madame Jean still showed a surprised expression. So fast. Lu Chen could more or less guess her true thoughts, but he wouldn't deliberately expose her. He smiled and said, I had the inspiration a long time ago. It's just that I wrote it. He asked Li Zhen to print out the song score that was already saved in his computer. Madame Jean took the still hot printed paper, and her eyes couldn't help but fall on the title at the top. It was the name of the song, Next Stop Heavenly Queen. Next Stop, Heavenly Queen? This song title is very interesting. Madame Jean's eyes couldn't help but light up. She felt that her previous guess was probably wrong. What Lu Chen took out was most likely not a half-hearted work, but a truly tailor-made work for the twins. If that was the case, Lu Chen's talent was really amazing. No wonder King Lu praised him so much. Thinking of the song The Love of My Life, that was circulating on the internet, Madame Jin's confidence in Lu Chen soared. Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan, who were sitting next to her, both looked at the song score curiously. Young Master Lu. At this time, Li Zhen appeared in the reception room again and said to Lu Chen, Boss Zhou from Jiayang Pictures is here. He wants to see you. Zhou? Lu Chen thought of this name, and wondered why Boss Zhou from Jiayang Pictures came here personally. He looked at Madame Jean who was sitting in front of him, and his heart suddenly moved. Chapter 455. In the 1980s and 1990s, Hong Kong's film and television entertainment industry was at its peak, and there were countless film companies. An ambitious and capable person in the circle could easily form a team, and buy a decent script to attract a large amount of investment. Then, with a cost of 1 million yuan at most, they could spend half a month or a month to make a movie and make a lot of money. However, the golden age of Hong Kong's entertainment industry had passed more than 10 years ago. Today's Hong Kong film and television companies were at most a quarter of their heyday, but the number was still considerable, and those who could survive usually had their own foundation and characteristics. Jiayang Film's status in Hong Kong's film and television industry couldn't be compared with the top moguls, but as an old film and television company, its strength and influence were not low, especially after it was acquired by Hong Kong businessman Zhou Yi. In the past 2 years, it had produced several movies with good box office. This was also the reason why Chen Wenxiang strongly advocated the cooperation between Lu Chen Studio and Jiayang Film. The team of Jiayang Film was ready-made and had rich experience. This film and television company had a good relationship with several major cinema chains, so they could quickly screen in Hong Kong and get good ratings. For Lu Chen Studio, which has just started, it will save a lot of trouble to have such a partner. However, the first contact and negotiation did not go well. Jiayang Film's offer was very high. It was not an exorbitant price, but it was far beyond Lu Chen's bottom line. Of course, a movie with an investment budget of as high as 30 million yuan could not be easily settled by sitting down for a meal and chatting. There were many rules and regulations involved in cooperation. The so-called negotiation was actually a process of bargaining and testing each other's bottom line. Often, a final agreement could only be reached after a round of gambling. Lu Chen had already expected this, so he began to prepare for the new movie, and was also mentally prepared to continue the negotiation with Jiayang Film. If they really could not come to an agreement, they could either talk to another company, or simply gather their people. Of course, that was the last choice, and it would cost a lot more time and money, which was contrary to the plan. To Lu Chen's surprise, he had just visited Jiayang Film with Chen Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan yesterday, and met their general manager Zhang Yifan. Today, the big boss behind Jiayang Film, Zhou Yi, actually paid a return visit in person. Was this also the influence of Lu Gangsheng? If that was the case, Lu Chen had undoubtedly underestimated the influence of this superstar in Xiangjiang. Lu Chen remained calm and collected as he said to Li Zhen, Mr. Zhou, please come to my office and apologize for me. Madame Jean was still sitting here. If he abandoned this group of people in front of him to welcome Zhou Yi, then his EQ would be too low, even if the latter was definitely here to discuss the cooperation of the new film. Yes, young Master Lu. Li Zhen nodded in agreement and left to receive Zhou Yi. Mrs. Jean smiled and said, "Young Master Lu, Boss Zhou is here in person. Is he here to discuss the cooperation of the new movie? Then you have to catch him and slaughter him." Young Master Lu was a very unique title in Xiangjiang. Previously, Ma Rongzhen mentioned it first, and then Chen Wenxiang also called him Young Master Lu. Now, even Li Zhen and Madame Jean changed the way they addressed him. Originally, as a guest, it was impolite to ask about the purpose of another guest's visit. However, Madame Jean was a woman, and her smile was very amiable. Her words revealed her familiarity with Zhou Yi, so people did not feel it was abrupt. Lu Chen was curious. "Madame Jean and Boss Zhou are friends?" Madame Jean smiled and said, "We've had dinner together a few times. Boss Zhou is a very trustworthy person. It's reassuring to cooperate with him. Several of my artists have filmed in Jieyang Film before. It's been a pleasure working with him." She looked around and took the opportunity to push her two goddaughters out. "Young Master Lu, do you still need actors for your movie? Give Xiaodai and Xinyan 2 roles. They can also play small roles. You don't need to pay them at all. Just treat it as letting them learn from you. How about it?" Filming a movie. Both Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan were tempted. They blinked their eyes and stared at Lu Chen. Filming movies and TV shows were irresistible temptations for most girls in Xiangjiang. There would always be examples in the industry of meeting talent scouts on the street, and then becoming famous, and embarking on a brilliant career as a star. Although this was Lu Chen's first movie and no one knew how it would turn out, being able to play a role in it would undoubtedly increase one's qualifications. With Lu Chen's fame and reputation, it was impossible for him to shoot a quick movie with tens of millions of investments, right? They were all smart people. Lu Chen smiled and said, "To be honest, I still lack a few roles in this movie. I haven't decided on the female lead either, but there really aren't any suitable ones for Xiaodai and Xinyan. If you don't mind, it's not a problem for you to play a small role." There were not many characters involved in the movie, a Chinese ghost story. Lu Chen played the male lead. Yin Qixia had already decided on Ma Rongzhen, and there was a female supporting role, Xiaoqing, reserved for Chen Wenxiang's daughter. The only thing that Madame Jean could get for her goddaughter was a cameo appearance out of friendship. Before Madame Jean could speak, Li Xinyan couldn't wait and said, "A small role is fine too." Ji Xiaodai also nodded in agreement. They didn't expect to get any important roles, so it was good to play a small role. Just treat it as a game. In fact, Madame Jin's intention of bringing them here today was very obvious. She wanted them to firmly grasp Lu Chen's potential. It was not to snatch a diamond bachelor, but to get Lu Chen's support in their career. People in Xiangjiang were very superstitious. There had always been a saying of benefactors in the circle. Madame Jean believed that Lu Chen was Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan's benefactor. Meeting him at Xu Jing's charity banquet was their fate and opportunity. She smiled and said, "Thank you so much, young Master Lu. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. It's on Xiaodai and Xinyan's tab." Lu Chen really admired this person. No wonder Xu Jing admired him so much when she mentioned him. It would be strange if such a person didn't mix well in the entertainment industry. Madame Jean was very observant. She had achieved her goal, so she didn't continue to pester him. After a while she stood up and said, "Young Master Lu still has guests, so we won't bother you anymore. I'll inform Miss Li after booking a table. See you tonight." Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan also stood up, bowed and said, "Goodbye, Teacher Lu. I'll see you out." Lu Chen personally saw Madame Jean and the others out, and then returned to his office. Zhou Yi, the chairman of Jieyang Pictures, was already waiting there. Chapter 456. Zhou Yi was a very pure businessman. He was born in a middle-class family, and received a good education from a young age. After graduating from a famous foreign university, he first engaged in foreign trade, and his business was doing very well. After earning the first pot of gold in his life, he quickly switched to the financial industry. After experiencing the 2002 stock crash in Xiangjiang, and the rising tide of the housing market in 2005, his assets quickly accumulated more than 100 million, and he became a rather famous financial investor. 10 years later, Zhou Yi established his own investment fund, which had many investment projects in the real economy and the internet industry, and most of them were profitable. In Xiangjiang, Zhou was definitely not one of the richest people, and he could not even be considered as one of the second richest. However, he was highly regarded in the industry, and was known for his accurate judgment and brilliant methods. According to Chen Wenqiang, Zhou was a trustworthy business partner, but definitely not suitable to be a friend. This was because he always put profits first, and if his own interests were harmed, even if it was an old friend, he would turn against him. Therefore, this director of Jiayang Pictures had a mixed reputation in the industry. Some people had a good impression of him, while others disliked him. When Lu Chen first saw Zhou, his first impression was that he did not look like a businessman who only cared about profits. He was in his 40s, slender and refined, wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses, and had a strong scholarly air. His face was fair without any facial hair, and he looked slightly feminine. His slender eyes were reserved. Apart from Zhou, there was a man and a woman sitting in Lu Chen's office. The man should be Zhou's bodyguard. He was dressed very smartly, and his eyes were shining brightly. He stood silently in the corner. As for the woman, Lu Chen stared at her for 3 more seconds. It was not that Lu Chen was lecherous or impolite, but this beautiful woman in a long dress with picturesque features had an indescribable demeanor. She sat quietly on the sofa, as if she was a frozen painting of a court lady. "Mr. Zhou, sorry to keep you waiting." Lu Chen took a step forward and took the initiative to extend his hand to Zhou. "Please forgive me for my negligence." Zhou smiled and held Lu Chen's hand tightly as he replied, "Mr. Lu, you're exaggerating. I came abruptly." Usually, the meeting between the two of them should have been arranged beforehand. Zhou and Madame Jin's arrival was very sudden. It felt like a surprise attack. Lu Chen asked, "These two are?" Zhou smiled. "Let me introduce you. This is my cousin Nie Mingzhu." The woman in the white dress slowly stood up and extended her hand to Lu Chen, saying, "Hello, Mr. Lu." Her voice was very pleasant, a little soft, and she spoke fluent Mandarin. It had the taste of Jiangnan. "Hello." Lu Chen held her little hand, and was a little surprised. "Miss Nie, have you lived in Suzhou before?" Nie Mingzhu smiled and said, "I was born in Xiangjiang, but I spent high school and university in Jinling. I even worked for Su Yang for a year, so I can be considered half a Jiangnan person." There was a smile at the corner of her mouth, with a hint of playfulness, and her whole person seemed to have become lively because of it. Lu Chen was secretly amazed. In terms of appearance and temperament, among all the women he had seen, only Chen Feier and Qin Qing could be compared to her, and they condensed the beauty of heaven and earth. Lu Chen deduced that the other party's family background was definitely not ordinary. An ordinary family would not be able to cultivate such an outstanding young lady. Burying his thoughts in his heart, Lu Chen invited the two of them to sit down again, and asked Li Zhen to bring a new cup of tea. The atmosphere between the two of them was very good. Zhou did not explicitly state the purpose of his visit. Instead, he chatted with Lu Chen about the current film and television industry in Xiangjiang, including the existing problems and future development direction. He focused on the industry support policy that the Xiangjiang government had just introduced, and its impact on the entire industry. Zhou was obviously not the kind of person who boasted and spoke eloquently. He did not say much, but he was always able to hit the nail on the head. Many of his viewpoints made Lu Chen feel refreshed. Following this topic, Zhou talked to Lu Chen about a Chinese ghost story. He thought that Lu Chen had chosen a good time to come to Xiangjiang to develop, and the success or failure of this movie was very important, especially in terms of quality. There was no room for sloppiness. According to the current news, there were only 24 movies produced in Xiangjiang that could be screened in the mainland through the support policy, which was exactly 2 movies per month. Compared to the number of movies produced in Xiangjiang every year, there were really too many monks and not enough gruel. The competition would definitely be extremely fierce, and getting a slot was not only based on connections, but more importantly, the quality of the movie. Even if a shoddy movie could pass the review and be screened in the mainland, it would still be a disgrace. The Xiangjiang government would definitely not agree to it. Lu Chen deeply agreed with this. He had an understanding of the policy conditions in this area, but not as in-depth as Zhou. At this time, Nie Mingzhu, who had been playing the role of a listener, also interrupted. However, she was talking about the script of a Chinese ghost story. As for Jiayang Pictures, Luchen's studio had already sent the script over, so it was normal for Nie Mingzhu to have seen it. She was obviously very interested in the story that was adapted from Strange Tales from a Chinese studio. There were quite a lot of questions. Luchen patiently answered them one by one. He had already understood Zhou Yi's real intention. The other party did not mention it directly, undoubtedly because he did not want to fall into a passive position in the subsequent negotiations. Instead, he put the choice on his side. Zhou Yi finally said, Mingzhu graduated from the Jinling Film and Television Academy and majored in acting. Originally, she planned to stay in the country to develop, but her family was worried, so she returned to Xiangjiang. So that was it. Luchen nodded, indicating that he understood. There was no need to be too straightforward when talking to a smart person. After this exchange, although it did not involve any negotiation terms, in fact, the two parties had taken a big step towards the success of the cooperation. The following developments also prove this point. In the following days, Luchen's studio and Jiayang Pictures started a new round of negotiations, and finally reached an agreement on the 7th day after Luchen arrived in Xiangjiang. Both parties were very satisfied with this agreement. Luchen held his bottom line, and Jiayang Pictures not only got a share of the profits, but also got the female lead of a Chinese ghost story and another important supporting role, Grandma Tree. The one who played Nie Xiaoqian was Nie Mingzhu. On the second day after signing the cooperation agreement with Jiayang Pictures, Luchen handed the follow-up matters to Chen Wenqiang and Wan Xiaoquan. He flew to Huhai with his assistant Zhang Xiaofeng, and then transferred to Wuming City. Chapter 457. Luchen flew to Wuming to visit the set. The object of the visit was, of course, his girlfriend, Chen Feier. The latter was filming the long historical TV series, Shengshi Longsong, on the Mongolian steppe. She had been there for several days, and it was said that the conditions were quite difficult. Shengshi Longsong was the 2017 blockbuster TV series of CCTV. It had a huge investment and a strong cast. Naturally, the shooting period was very long, and most of the scenes were shot in real scenes. This was the unchanging feature of CCTV's blockbuster TV series for decades. Big scenes and big pictures, especially when it came to military and war-related content. Even Hollywood would be stunned by the manpower and resources used. For an important role played by Chen Feier, it was very normal for her to go to the Mongolian steppe or the Gobi Desert to film for dozens of days. After arriving in Wuming City, the capital of Mongolia, Luchen and Zhang Xiaofeng left the airport and got the off-road vehicle that Beijing studio had arranged in advance. Then they drove to the filming site more than 700 kilometers away. The Mongolian province, with a total area of more than 2.7 million square kilometers, was the largest province in China. At the beginning of the last century, Outer Mongolia was separated from China and returned to the embrace of the motherland in the 1970s. After leaving Wuming City, the surrounding terrain quickly opened up. The rolling hills and green grasslands became the most important scenery along the way. After driving along the highway for more than 300 kilometers, it was already dark by the time they reached Bartow City. The two stayed in Bader City for a night, filled up the off-road vehicle, and continued northwest. Out of Bader City, they entered the vast Mongolian steppe. There were basically no regular roads here. Without the guidance of a satellite navigation system, it was very easy to get lost and not find the way back. But driving a powerful off-road vehicle on the steppe was definitely a kind of enjoyment. Opening the roof of the vehicle, bathing in the sun and wind, freely driving to one's heart's content, let people's mood fly with the release of dandelions. This was the first time that Luchen had come to Mongolia. On the way, he exchanged seats with Zhang Xiaofeng and drove by himself, enjoying the feeling of being far away from the world. At 8 o'clock in the morning, they set off from Bader City. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the two found Shuiquanwai, where the film crew of CCTV's Shengshi Longsong was located. Shuiquanwai was a large settlement for the local Mongolians. It was located by the Little Mirror Lake and had a population of more than 10,000. The Mongolians had been living a nomadic life for generations, but in modern times, with the continuous growth of the population and the development of animal husbandry, The contradiction between survival and the environment became increasingly prominent. In order to protect the ecology of the prairie, many Mongolians began to live a settled life. Shuiquanwai was such a settlement, which was equivalent to a grassland town. It was a local tourist attraction, and because of the relatively good conditions and facilities, it became the base of the CCTV, Shengshi Longsong film crew. From afar, Lu Chen could see Ao Bao standing on a high slope with a colorful flag fluttering in the wind. The Ao Bao was a landmark on the grassland, and also the place where the herdsmen offered sacrifices. It was telling Lu Chen that he had finally reached his destination after traveling thousands of kilometers from the south to the north. Shuiquanwai covered a large area. The central area was composed of large buildings and bungalows with white walls and green tiles. There were many beautiful Mongolian yurts scattered around the town on the grassland, and scattered cattle and sheep could be seen everywhere. In the distance was the sparkling Little Mirror Lake, and a group of horses were eating grass by the lake, chasing and playing. It was really a picturesque scenery. By inquiring the local villagers, Lu Chen easily found the place where the film crew was stationed. It was an independent compound, and a vehicle with the words Shengshi Longsong Film Crew was parked in front of the gate. He must have found the right place. There was a staff member in the compound. When Lu Chen went in to inquire, the staff member recognized him at a glance. "Are you Lu Chen?" The staff member of the Central TV film crew was very surprised. "Why are you here? Don't tell me you're here to film with our crew? I haven't received any notice." Lu Chen was not on the cast list of Shengshi Longsong film crew. But it was normal for such a strong cast to add or lose an actor temporarily. It was not worth making a fuss about. Lu Chen smiled and said, "I'm here to visit." Visit? The staff member was suddenly speechless. It was also normal for actors and artists to have friends in the circle to visit when they were filming outside. However, this was the central area of the Mongolian grassland, and the nearest city was hundreds of kilometers away. The staff member was very experienced, but he had never seen anyone like Lu Chen. He suddenly came to a realization. "You're here to see Chen Feier, aren't you? Wasn't Chen Feier Lu Chen's girlfriend?" The relationship between the two of them was really good. The staff member sighed and said enviously, "Miss Chen and the crew are filming at the hunting ground. I guess they won't be back for 2 days. It's more than 100 kilometers away from Shuiquanwai." Lu Chen replied without thinking, "Then I'll drive there myself." It's not hard to drive more than 100 kilometers. He had already run thousands of kilometers. How could he miss more than 100 kilometers? The staff member asked with a smile. "You didn't come without informing Miss Chen, did you?" Lu Chen nodded a little embarrassedly. He didn't inform Chen Feier in advance that he came to visit her. The purpose was to give her a surprise. During his time in Hong Kong, the two talked on the phone every day. He knew that Chen Feier had a hard time filming, and he almost had a scandal. Although it was just a misunderstanding and it had been solved, he still felt a little sorry in his heart. Therefore, before the shooting of a Chinese ghost story officially began, Lu Chen rushed over to visit her. It was difficult for lovers in the entertainment industry to stay together for a long time. If the relationship wanted to remain unchanged, both sides needed to maintain it carefully. Although the relationship between the two had always been very good, it didn't mean that they didn't need to be cared for. Sure enough, the other party slapped his thigh. "I knew it would be like this. It's really romantic. Then I'll go with you and give you something by the way, so that you don't go the wrong way." Lu Chen was surprised. "That won't delay you, right?" The staff member said with a smile. "It doesn't matter. There are other people stationed inside. I'll just tell them." Lu Chen was grateful. "Thank you so much. You're welcome." The other party waved his hand and said with a smile, "Just give me an autographed photo. My sister is your fan." Lu Chen smiled. "Tell me your sister's address later. I'll ask Beijing Studio to send her a signed limited edition album." Great. So, under the leadership of the crew member, Lu Chen and Chen Feier drove to the hunting ground 100 kilometers away again. They traveled all the way just to meet their beloved. Chapter 458. The filming location of Golden Song Row was a hunting ground more than 100 kilometers away from Shuiquan Circle. The hunting ground was located on the bank of Shuiquan River, which was the only source of Little Mirror Lake. The hunting ground covered an area of hundreds of square kilometers, covered in virgin forests and mountains, so there were a lot of wild animals. Due to the need for ecological protection, the hunting ground had basically lost its function, but the name Shuiquan Hunting Ground had been retained, and it had become a good scenic spot. The crew of Golden Song Row had gone to Shuiquan Hunting Ground to film yesterday. According to the plan, they would not be able to return to Shuiquan Circle until tomorrow, and that was only if the filming went smoothly. On the way to Shuiquan Hunting Ground, the crew member who acted as a temporary guide enthusiastically introduced the environment there to Lu Chun. There were also Mongolian settlements in Shuiquan Hunting Ground, so the conditions there were not too bad. He obviously didn't want Lu Chun to worry about Chen Fei or's living conditions there, so Lu Chun could be at ease. Zhang Xiaofeng drove very steadily, and after about an hour and a half, they finally saw the wooden fence outside Shuiquan Hunting Ground, as well as the fluttering battle flag. Passing through the obviously temporary gate, the off-road vehicle drove into the settlement of the hunting ground. There were tents scattered at the foot of the mountain, and one of them was especially eye-catching, golden. That's the Khan's golden tent. The staff member who led the way introduced it proudly. I built it with a group of brothers, and we also asked a lot of herdsmen to help. Many of the props were custom-made from Wuming City. Lu Chun was surprised. You're a props master? The man was surprised. I'm working hard in this area. My current job is a props master. He had come to Shuiquan Hunting Ground with a few props. We're here. The car stopped next to a Mongolian yurt, where several vehicles of the crew were already parked. The staff member jumped out of the car first, grabbed a colleague nearby, and asked, "Do you know where Chen Fei is filming now?" The colleague rolled his eyes. "What do you want?" He gestured to Lu Chun, who had just gotten out of the car. "He's here to visit you." His colleague's eyes widened. F***CK, this master actually came here. He's really capable. The guide smiled and said, "Our relationship is good. One day apart feels like 3 years. It's understandable." His colleague was impressed. "I'm impressed. They should be in the golden tent now. I think they're almost done." The staff explained to Lu Chun. Lu Chun, of course, expressed his understanding. "Then I'll wait here for the crew to finish filming. I won't disturb your work." The staff member smiled and said, "All right then, I'll have to send the props over first." "Excuse me." Lu Chun thanked him again. After bidding farewell to the warm-hearted man, Lu Chun let Zhang Xiaofeng stay in the car while he wandered around the hunting grounds. Other than a few wooden houses, the rest were basically tents. There were also a large number of cattle, sheep, and horses outside, so the smell was not very pleasant. The people who came and went were all Mongolians. They were all very enthusiastic and took the initiative to greet Lu Chun when they saw him. Some even invited Lu Chun to sit in their tents. Lu Chun responded politely but declined the invitation, saying that he had something else to do. "Are you also here to film?" As he wandered around to watch the fun, he suddenly heard a crisp voice next to him, as pleasant as an oriole. Lu Chun couldn't help but turn his head and see a little Mongolian girl standing a few steps away. She was about 13 or 14 years old. Her skin was dark, but her eyes were big and lively. She was wearing traditional ethnic clothing with a pink, green, and blue tunic dress. Her black hair was tied into small braids, and her pointed hat was inlaid with colorful gems. She was a little Mongolian beauty. She was also holding a long whip in her hand. Behind the little girl was a little brat with a runny nose. He was probably her younger brother. He was tugging at his sister's belt and timidly peeking at Lu Chun. Lu Chun found it interesting. He leaned over and replied with a smile, "I'm not here to film. I'm here to visit." The other party's Mandarin was very standard, without any regional accent. "Visit?" The little girl clearly didn't understand the meaning of the word. Lu Chun explained, "I'm here to visit a friend who's filming." "Ah." The little girl suddenly understood. "Then he must be a very, very good friend of yours, right?" Lu Chun nodded with a smile and asked, "Little girl, what's your name?" The little girl replied very seriously, "My name is Jejentana. I'll be an adult in 2 years." She meant that she wasn't young anymore. Lu Chen chuckled. Jejentana? The Pearl of the Grassland. What a nice name. Jejentana was surprised. You know the meaning of my name? Lu Chen smiled but didn't say anything. In Mongolian, Jejentana meant pearl. Lu Chen had found it out from Fang Mingyi's memory. The latter could speak simple Mongolian and had traveled on the Mongolian grassland. However, in Fang Mingyi's world, Outer Mongolia didn't return to the motherland, which became a pain in the hearts of countless people. The memory came back, and for a moment he couldn't help but be absent-minded. Jejentana rolled her dark eyes and asked, "How long are you going to stay in the spring hunting ground?" Lu Chen came back to his senses and replied with a smile, "Just a day or two. I came from Xiangjiang." Xiangjiang. For Jejentana, Xiangjiang was undoubtedly a very distant place. There was a trace of confusion on her face. "Who's your visiting friend?" Lu Chen said. "Her name is Chen Fei. Do you know her?" "Sister Fei." Jejentana's eyes suddenly lit up. "Your Sister Fei's friend? She was very smart." "Boyfriend?" Lu Chen nodded with a smile. Jejentana's face fell a little, as if she had thought of something. Lu Chen. Lu Chen was about to speak when he suddenly heard Zhang Xiaofeng's shout, which made his heart tighten. It must be that Chen Fei, or was about to come out after the shooting at the Golden Tent. He didn't have time to chat with this very interesting Mongolian girl and said, "I'm going over. Goodbye." "Wait." Jejentana suddenly stopped Lu Chen, then stuffed the whip in her hand into his hand and said, "This is for you. Don't lose it." After saying that, she turned around and ran away with her brother, disappearing between the yurts in the blink of an eye. Lu Chen held the whip in a daze, but it was too late for him to refuse. But he didn't care about such a small thing now, because he had already seen a figure appear at the Golden Tent from a long distance. Lu Chen ran in that direction without thinking. The familiar figure became clearer and clearer. Chapter 459. With tired steps, Chen Fei walked out of the Khan's Golden Tent, which served as a temporary shooting site. What she wanted to do most now was to go back to the Mongolian yurt where she lived, lie on the bed covered with a velvet blanket, and have a good sleep. She didn't want to think about anything, and then sleep until the next morning. Shooting on location was very troublesome and tiring. It was undoubtedly a big test for Chen Fei, or to travel thousands of kilometers from the prosperous and comfortable big city to the boundless Mongolian steppe. She started her career as a singer, and had guest roles in several movies before. Autumn in My Heart was her first time to play the female lead role, which could be considered as her real entry into the film and television industry. But whether it was Autumn in My Heart, or Full House of Romance, although the shooting of the two urban romance dramas was very busy, the crew took good care of her. In addition, many scenes were shot in the film and television city, so it was not very hard. Shengshi Long Song Line was completely different. As the annual drama of CCTV, this long TV series involved many characters. Chen Fei was not a top big shot among them. Naturally, she didn't want to get the best care. Moreover, the director of this TV series, Zhang Ke, had always been known for his strict requirements for actors in the circle. He was experienced and famous, and backed by the towering tree of CCTV. So he dared to point out the mistakes made by any big stars, and even scolded them. If a scene did not meet his requirements, Zhang Ke would let the actor perform again, and again until he was finally satisfied. After the training of 2 TV series, Chen Fei's acting skills could be said to have improved a lot compared to before. But obviously, she could not completely meet Zhang Ke's standards, so she suffered a lot in this regard. Most importantly, even if she suffered a lot, Chen Fei would grit her teeth and stick to it. Not only because this TV series could greatly improve her position in the circle, but also because she wanted to prove her ability to everyone. Of course, in this way, she worked even harder. At this moment, Chen Fei could not help thinking of Lu Chen in Hong Kong. He must be living a good life. Maybe he was drinking coffee with a beautiful woman now. Lu Chen. Just as Chen Fei was letting her imagination run wild, the assistant beside her suddenly screamed, "Sister Fei, Lu Chen is here." Chen Fei was stunned for a moment. He wondered if he was hallucinating. Why is Lu Chen here? This wasn't Beijing or the Jinling film city. It was the hinterland of the vast Mongolian steppe, and the nearest city was hundreds of kilometers away. However, the next moment, Chen Fei saw Lu Chen running towards him. It really was Lu Chen. Chen Fei couldn't believe her eyes. The huge surprise instantly made her eyes blur with tears. All the tiredness, grievance, and bitterness in her heart disappeared, leaving only an incomparable sweetness. Under the watchful eyes of the public, she rushed forward and threw herself into Lu Chen's arms. Lu Chen hugged Chen Fei. In contrast, he was much more rational. He noticed all kinds of strange eyes from all directions, so he could only resist the impulse in his heart, and did not make any overly intimate moves. He patted his girlfriend's back and whispered, "You've lost weight." The tears in her eyes suddenly fell. Chen Fei wanted to cry in his arms, but she didn't forget where she was. She gently broke away from Lu Chen's arms, reached out her hand to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes, and asked, "Why are you here?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "I missed you, so I came." All the onlookers expressed that these words of love gave them goosebumps all over their bodies. Many single people suffered 10,000 points of critical damage at the same time. They simply couldn't continue to watch. "Chen Fei, is this your boyfriend?" The words of praise came from a dark and thin middle-aged man. He was about 40 or 50 years old, wearing a dark gray jacket. His hair was messy, and his cheekbones were high. He looked at the two of them with a pair of bright eyes. Chen Fei hurriedly introduced him to Lu Chen. "This is our director, Director Zhang Kazhang." "Hello, Director Zhang." Lu Chen immediately stepped forward and took the initiative to extend his hands to him. "I'm Lu Chen. I've heard a lot about you." It was estimated that everyone in the country knew Director Zhang Kazhang, and Lu Chen was no exception. He was a direct TV series director of CCTV. He had shot large-scale historical series such as Qin, Romance of Sui and Tang, The Ming Empire, Opium War, and so on. Not only was he well known in China, but he also had a great reputation in the Asian film and television industry. In front of this great senior in the circle, no matter how many TV series and movies Lu Chen had shot, he was still a junior. Zhang Ke shook hands with Lu Chen, and a smile appeared on his serious face. "I know you. Zhang Wentian once mentioned you to me. Is Wan Xiaoquan helping you now?" Lu Chen replied respectfully, "Yes, Director Wan is currently in Hong Kong to shoot my first movie." Zhang nodded. "It's not easy for Wan Xiaoquan either. You're very good." He looked at Chen Fei and said, "As Chen Fei's boyfriend, you are qualified." Everyone laughed. At this moment, there were a lot of people around, many of whom were actors in the crew. They were still wearing their costumes. Those with high status could stand in, while the extras could only look at them from afar and point at them. The male actors admired and envied Lu Chen, while the female actors mostly admired and envied him. It was very common for stars to visit the set, but coming here to visit the set was not something that ordinary people could do. Lu Chen was a little embarrassed by their laughter. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled, and the corners of her lips curled up with the taste of happiness. She introduced other actors to Lu Chen. "This is Big Brother Lang. This is Yan Kong, Teacher Yan. Sister Wan." The main actors that Chen Fei introduced to Lu Chen were all big shots in the film and television circle. The most famous one was undoubtedly Lang, who played the leading actor. He had won 3 major domestic film awards, and starred in several popular films and TV series. Lang was tall and handsome. At first glance, one could tell that he was the image of a positive character. His attitude towards Lu Chen was very good, and he did not have the slightest airs of a big shot. After the introduction of a circle of people, Zhang Ke said, "You can go. Remember not to delay tomorrow's shooting." His words were sincere and meaningful. Several actresses giggled, and Lang and the others also smiled ambiguously. Chen Fei's face was red with laughter, and she hurriedly pulled Lu Chen to the tent where she lived. Chapter 460. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. They hadn't seen each other for more than half a month. Couples in love always wanted to be together at all times. Being apart from each other was the most difficult thing to bear. When they met again, the flames of love would naturally burn especially fiercely. It was just that it wasn't dark yet, and the crew had just finished shooting. There were people coming and going outside the tent, and it was very lively. Under such circumstances, Lu Chen could only forcibly suppress the impulse and have a little warmth with Chen Fei, to resolve his lovesickness. Chen Fei, who was blushing, grabbed Lu Chen's hand that was moving in her skirt. She said shyly with her beautiful eyes, "Okay, let's talk about it at night." Her eyes were so charming that they were about to drip water. She was very attractive. Fortunately, Lu Chen's willpower was strong enough. Otherwise, he would really push her down at all costs. He reluctantly withdrew his hand and lowered his head to kiss Chen Fei's pretty face. The two leaned against each other and talked about their respective situations. Lu Chen told Chen Fei everything he had encountered in Xiangjiang. Compared to Chen Fei, who was filming here, he could say a lot more. So most of the time it was Chen Fei, who was listening. After listening, Chen Fei said with a smile, "You're lucky. You actually got a like from Lu Gangsheng. With him protecting you, you can do whatever you want in Xiangjiang's entertainment circle." What she said, Lu Chen was impressed by his girlfriend. She must have seen a lot of gangster films in Xiangjiang. "Do you know Lu Gangsheng?" Chen Fei replied, "I've seen him twice, but I'm not familiar with him. My main friends in Xiangjiang are Sister Xu Jing." Lu Chen asked, "What about Madame Jean?" Chen Fei smiled and said, "Madame Jean is too smart. We can cooperate but not be friends." Lu Chen nodded. He thought of Zhou. Chen Fei's evaluation was very accurate. Madame Jean was not much different from Zhou. Chen Fei picked up the whip on the bedside table and asked curiously, "Where did you get this?" "Oh," Lu Chen explained. "I met a Mongolian girl just now, Jejentana. She forced it on me. It was not good to throw away a gift from someone else, so when he came in just now he casually placed it here." "Jejentana?" Chen Fei was surprised. "Is it Jejentana from the Qian family? That pretty little girl?" Lu Chen wasn't sure. "I think so." Chen Fei's eyes widened. He waved the whip in his hand. "She gave you this whip, and you accepted it? You didn't return it to her?" Lu Chen suddenly felt like he had fallen into a trap. "Is there a problem?" Chen Fei immediately laughed, shaking like a flower. She leaned on Lu Chen's shoulder and said with a smile, "This is a girl's whip for Mongolian girls. They are all made by themselves and usually only given to their sweetheart. It's equivalent to a token of love. Jejentana fell in love with you at first sight. That's why she gave you this whip the moment they met. You actually accepted it?" Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How would I know? He really didn't know. In Fang Mingyi's memory of Mongolia, there didn't seem to be such a custom. "Then I'll return it." Chen Fei criticized. "Jejentana is a good girl. Don't you think you're hurting her heart by doing this?" Lu Chen was speechless. "Then what should I do?" Chen Fei said with a smile. "You don't have to do anything. This was a custom in the past. It doesn't matter now. When Jejentana meets someone she really likes, she will naturally weave another whip. Actually, someone in our crew also received a whip. If Brother Sherlang hadn't found out what was going on later, I'm afraid he would have wrapped it up and brought it back. So that was how it was." Lu Chen was finally relieved. He knew that Chen Fei was deliberately teasing him. He reached out to tickle Chen Fei in revenge. Chen Fei was most afraid of tickles. She laughed and dodged. Suddenly, she grabbed a whip from behind her like a magic trick and waved it at Lu Chen. She said proudly, "Don't you dare bully me. I have one too. Be careful or I'll whip you." Mongolian women were like wild horses on the grassland. Timid and wretched cowards couldn't conquer them. They liked real men, and this whip was used to tame wild horses. Taking the initiative to give the whip represented entrusting one's fate. On the other hand, it could also be used as a weapon to whip unfaithful men. It had a double meaning. Jejentana had taught Chen Fei how to weave her whip. It was actually very easy to distinguish an ordinary whip from a girl's whip. The latter had a red concentric knot on the handle, so it was very easy to distinguish. The sweet time always passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark. The herdsmen set up a bonfire on the grass by the river and invited the crew to join their feast. Lu Chen was lucky enough to sit together and enjoy the fragrant roast lamb and horse milk wine. All the main members of the crew were present. Director Zhang Ke, the main actor Lang, and the others were all sitting around the bonfire. Here, regardless of their status in the circle, they were all guests of the Mongolian herdsmen who were enthusiastic and generous. The bonfire blazed, fireflies danced, and a bright moon hung high in the sky. The grassland shrouded in the night sky was exceptionally beautiful. When they were drunk, a burly man stood up and said loudly, "Ladies, men, let's dance and welcome our friends from the capital." Chen Feier lowered her voice and said to Lu Chen, "This is Jejentana's father, the owner of the spring hunting ground. We all call him Uncle Begging Face." The young herdsmen around them stood up one after another. A few old Mongolians played the horsehead zither and the peace drum, instantly pushing the atmosphere to a climax. The Mongolians were a people who loved singing and dancing. Their songs and dances had been passed down from generation to generation. Even today, they still had a charming charm. They were passionate, bold, and full of optimism, making people smile when they heard them. Under their lead, the crew also cast aside their reservations and sang and danced along, sharing the joy together. After the song was finished, one of the herdsmen shouted, "Let the guests sing a song too, okay?" "Okay." The young herdsmen cheered loudly and applauded in unison. As the saying goes, it's hard to refuse hospitality. Under such circumstances, how could the guests not show their skills? Therefore, everyone's eyes fell on Lu Chen and Chen Feier. When it came to singing, who could compete with this couple? Lu Chen and Chen Feier looked at each other. The latter pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You sing." Lu Chen did not refuse. He stood up big and said, "Then I'll show my incompetence and sing a song." "Okay." Applause and cheers rang out again. Chapter 461. More and more people gathered around the bonfire by the river. It felt like all the herdsmen in the hunting ground had arrived. The light from the burning fire illuminated the faces, like a huge oil painting, yet extremely vivid. The jade ribbon-like spring river flowed quietly on the grassland, the ripples sparkling. That was the radiance of the moon. The neighing of steeds could be heard from afar. A light breeze blew past, carrying the fragrance of earth and grass in the air. Under everyone's gaze, Lu Chen strode up to an old herdsman, bowed and asked, "Sir, may I borrow your horsehead zither?" The old herdsman was very old. The dark skin on his face showed deep scars of time. His hair was white, and his eyes were cloudy. However, he was very good at playing the horsehead zither. Hearing that Lu Chen wanted to borrow his zither, the old herdsman grinned, revealing his uneven yellow teeth. His wrinkled face looked like a chrysanthemum. He generously handed the zither to Lu Chen. "Here." "Thank you." Lu Chen took the zither and bowed again to express his gratitude. The zither looked very old, probably as old as the old herdsman in front of him, but it was well maintained. The materials used for the head, the shaft, and the resonating box were quite exquisite. The dark maroon surface had a clear coating. Only those who knew their stuff would know how precious such an ancient horsehead zither was. Everyone was shocked. Be it Uncle Begging and the other herdsmen, or the crew members like Zhang Ku and Lang, no one had expected Lu Chen to play with a horsehead zither. Many people present knew that Lu Chen played the guitar very well, but a guitar and a horsehead zither were two different things. He could not possibly play a horsehead zither with the same technique he used on the guitar, could he? That would be a joke. Lu Chen sat down on a small folding stool. He held the horsehead zither in his arms and said, "This is my first time coming to the Mongolian grassland. It's so beautiful, it feels like the home of my dreams. At the same time, I'm very grateful to my Mongolian friends for your hospitality, so this song is for you." Although there were a lot of people gathered around, when Lu Chen spoke, everyone was very polite to keep quiet, so his voice could be clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Hearing Lu Chen's praise for the Mongolian steppe, the herdsman smiled proudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the enthusiastic herdsman immediately gave him a round of applause. Lu Chen smiled and waited for the applause to subside. Then he said, "The name of this song is, 'The Beautiful Grassland is My Home.'" "The beautiful grassland is my home?" Zhang Ku, Lang, and the other crew members couldn't help but look at each other, because they had never heard this song before. The Mongolian herdsmen could basically understand Chinese. They didn't know that this song was an original work by Lu Chen. When they heard the title of the song, they felt that it was perfect. Wasn't the beautiful grassland their home? Therefore, everyone clapped and cheered again. Among the people present, only Chun Fair understood. She gazed at Lu Chen affectionately. Her eyes were filled with gentle love and pride. Sister Fair. At this moment, a delicate figure quietly came to Chun Fair's side. Chun Fair immediately smiled. Sister Jejentana. The little Mongolian girl had a look of shame on her face. She stammered and said in a low voice, Sister Fair, I gave my whip to Brother Lu Chen. Women on the grassland dared to love and hate. When they met someone they liked, they dared to take the initiative to confess. They would never hide their feelings for others to guess. Jejentana was no exception. She had never seen a Han man as handsome as Lu Chen, so she gave him her whip. But after thinking about it, Lu Chen was Sister Fair's boyfriend. It was wrong of her to do so. Therefore, after a fierce struggle, she finally came to Chun Fair and apologized. Don't be angry. Silly sister. Chun Fair smiled and held Jejentana in her arms. Sister won't be angry, because sister knows that Jejentana is a good girl, so, let's listen to the song together. She liked Jejentana very much. How could she be jealous and angry because of the little girl's budding feelings? It was normal for many girls to like a man like Lu Chen. On the other side, Lu Chen had already begun to sing. The sound of the horsehead zither was melodious, playing a beautiful melody. The beautiful grassland is my home. The wind blows the green grass and flowers everywhere. Butterflies flutter and birds sing. A bend of clear water reflects the sunset glow. Steeds are like colorful clouds. Cattle and sheep scatter like pearls. Aha! Ha! The shepherd girl sang loudly, and her happy voice filled the world. The song, The Beautiful Grassland is My Home, was a widely sung classic in Lu Chen's dream world. The song, with a beautiful pastoral tune, praised the picturesque scenery of the Mongolian grassland and the happy life of the herdsman, and had been covered by countless singers. Lu Chen played the horsehead zither, and it could be said to be an original interpretation. The first two bars were a series of upward and upward movements, as if herdsmen were climbing high to overlook the vast grassland. The yurts blooming like lotus flowers and the cattle and sheep scattered on the pasture like pearls, making people involuntarily immersed in the atmosphere created by the song. Later, there was a sublimation in the music, pouring out the infinite praise of the herdsmen for the beauty of their hometown. The continuous ups and downs and a progressive sense of narration made the lyrical color of the song more rich. At this moment, this place, this scenery, this zither, this song, who could not be intoxicated? The beautiful grassland is my home. The water is clear and the grass is beautiful. I love it. The grassland is like a green sea. The yurts are like white lotus flowers. The herdsmen describe a happy scene. The spring scenery is picturesque. Ah ha ha, ha! The shepherd girl sings loudly. Her happy voice is heard all over the world. The shepherd girl sings loudly. Her happy voice is heard all over the world. The structure of the second paragraph was exactly the same as the previous one. The four phrases developed in a square, in addition to a deeper level of improvement in the music. In terms of lyricism, there was a more lingering charm. In particular, there was a long note in the last sentence with a strong attachment. That was the author's love and love for the beautiful grassland, a reluctant confession. The sound of the zither and the song lingered, drifting between the yurts, across the spring river, and fluttering over the boundless grassland. Until the end of Lu Chen's singing, no one spoke. The surroundings were quiet, as if a magic of time had been cast, and only the crackling sound of the firewood burning in the bonfire reminded people. Many herdsmen were intoxicated by the song, and many even had tears in their eyes. Born here, grow up here, sing here, cry here, and die here. Perhaps they did not know these words, but their love for their hometown had long been integrated into their bones and blood. And that strong and blazing emotion was completely aroused by Lu Chen's singing at this moment. The beautiful grassland is my home. Note: The beautiful grassland is my home. Lyricist, Hua/composer, Alateng Ol. Chapter 462. Times were developing, society was progressing, and the influence of modern civilization was everywhere. The Mongolians, who had lived a nomadic life for generations, were gradually changing their way of life. Many young people in the tribe went out to explore the bustling big cities and see the more wonderful world outside. Some never returned, and some went and came back again. But for those who left and those who continued to stick to this land, the prairie would always be their home, their root, and their spiritual sustenance that could not be erased by thousands of mountains and rivers. Lu Chen's song, "The Beautiful Prairie is My Home," was also the voice of the herdsmen, so it touched their hearts and shook their souls. They couldn't calm down for a long time. Good. Uncle Qian's roar woke up those who were still immersed in the song. Holding a big bowl of horse milk wine, he strode in front of Lu Chen and said in a deep voice, "Young man, this is the best song I, Qian, have ever heard in my life. This bowl of wine is for you." This was Jejentana's father, a Mongolian man. He had the back of a tiger, the waist of a bear, and the appearance of a boorish man. His square face was dark red, and his hair was thick. He looked powerful and strong, and he exuded a valiant aura. But when he looked at Lu Chen, his eyes were full of admiration. Lu Chen quickly put down the horsehead zither and took the huge bowl with both hands. Uncle Qian was the owner of this hunting ground, equivalent to the tribe's leader. He personally toasted Lu Chen. Even if he was drunk, he couldn't refuse this bowl of wine. Fortunately, the horse milk wine was a low-alcohol wine, mild in nature, and not to the point of intoxication. So Lu Chen put the silver bowl to his mouth and drank the wine in one gulp, without missing a drop. Good. Uncle Qian praised loudly again, and gave Lu Chen a thumbs up, and the surrounding herdsmen cheered in unison. Lu Chen conquered this group of unruly grassland men with his performance. Zhang Ku, who was sitting not far away, saw this and sighed in his heart. Although he was a film director and not a music professional, his understanding of music undoubtedly far exceeded that of ordinary people. Zhang Ku had never heard of Beautiful Prairie My Home. But it was absolutely impossible for such a song with a beautiful melody and moving lyrics to remain unknown. The only explanation was that it was Lu Chen's original work, and he had improvised it after he came to the Mongolian steppe. In the circle, Lu Chen is famous for his creativity, and is known as the #1 of the new generation of singers. What kind of talent was that? Zhang Ku had seen many talented and capable young people, but Lu Chen had undoubtedly left the deepest impression on him. An idea suddenly popped into the director's mind. Begging uncle asked, "Young man, who wrote the song you are singing?" "His name is Lu Chen and he is Sister Feier's boyfriend." At this time, Jejentana came out and revealed Lu Chen's identity. She looked at Lu Chen with longing eyes and asked, "Brother Lu Chen, this song is really beautiful. Can you teach me? I want to sing it to all the grassland people at this year's White Festival party." The White Festival was the most solemn and grand annual festival of the Mongolians, equivalent to the Spring Festival. Starting on the first day of the first lunar month, people made New Year's greetings to each other, toasted, dined, sang and danced to their heart's content, and had entertainment to celebrate the health and happiness of the whole year. Begging Uncle Qian smiled and touched his daughter's head. This was his most cherished pearl. Lu Chen said with a smile, "I wrote this song. If you like it, I'll let you sing it." "Really?" Jejentana was surprised and delighted. She clapped her hands and said, "That's great." Her laughter was as pleasant as a silver bell, full of joy and joy. Many people in the crew looked at Jejentana in a different way, because the latter obviously did not know that the price of a song by Lu Chen was one of the highest in the circle. Lu Chen was able to rise miraculously in the entertainment circle, and win the heart of Chen Fei. His talent in music creation was the most important factor, and he had made more than 1 or 2 new stars popular. Jejentana got the song, "Beautiful Grassland My Home." Even if it was just a cover, as long as she manipulated it, did it mean that a star would rise on the grassland? Others could not get it, but she could get it with just a word. How could people not be envious, jealous, and hateful? Really? Begging Uncle Qian was also surprised. He widened his eyes, waved his hand and said, "Bring another bowl of wine." The way this grassland man expressed his gratitude and admiration was always so simple and direct. It was hard for Lu Chen to refuse such hospitality, so he had to drink another big bowl of horse milk wine. Even if the alcohol content of horse milk wine was low, it could not withstand such drinking. After finishing the second bowl, his face turned red, and he was really a little drunk. Begging Uncle Qian laughed and patted Lu Chen on the shoulder. "Good man." Lu Chen could only smile bitterly. After the bonfire dinner, Lu Chen was supported by Chen Fei, and staggered back to her tent. Helping Lu Chen lie down on the soft and comfortable bed, Chen Fei, fetched some hot water, wrung a towel in the basin, and thoughtfully put it on his face. The heat seeped into the skin through the pores, making people feel comfortable, and also made Lu Chen's drunkenness dissipate a lot. He took a long and comfortable breath, and his whole person became much more sober. Chen Fei said coquettishly, "You drank too much last night." Lu Chen said helplessly, "I didn't want to, but they all came to get me drunk." In addition to the herdsmen, the crew members also tried to get him drunk. Even Lang had offered him a bowl, so how could he not drink? Of course he couldn't, so he drank too much. Chen Fei said in disgust, "You reek of alcohol. Don't touch me at night." Lu Chen chuckled and suddenly reached out to grab her, pulling her directly into his arms, and leaned over to kiss her. He said vaguely, "I want to touch you." Chen Fei giggled and resisted. She turned her head and said, "Then sing me a song, one I haven't heard before." She had made similar requests several times, and she was pleasantly surprised every time. This time Lu Chen even gave Jejentana a song. Lu Chen gave up, and pretended to be deep in thought. After a while he said, "Got it." He hugged Chen Fei, and hummed softly in her ear. "In a faraway place, there is a good girl. When people pass by her accounting room, they will look back longingly. Her pink smiling face, like the red sun. Her beautiful and moving eyes, like the bright moonlight at night. I would like to be a little lamb, to follow her to herd sheep. I would like her to hold a thin whip. Keep hitting me gently." Lu Chen's singing became very, very soft, and in the end, it was almost undetectable. Then it turned into the sound of even breathing. He couldn't resist the alcohol, and had already fallen asleep. Chen Fei tightly leaned against Lu Chen's broad chest. She only wished that time would stop at this moment forever. It was so warm. Chapter 463. Early in the morning, when Lu Chen woke up from his sleep, the first thing he saw was Chen Fei, curled up in his arms. She was still sleeping soundly with a faint smile on her lips. Lu Chen hugged her arm tighter, and sniffed the familiar fragrance of his girlfriend. He didn't want to get up. Achoo! However, a knotty strand of hair accidentally touched Lu Chen's nose, causing him to sneeze. As a result, Chen Fei was woken up. Lu Chen rubbed his nose in embarrassment and asked with a smile, "You're awake? Why don't you sleep a little longer?" Chen Fei shook her head and leaned her body against Lu Chen lazily. She said in a sweet voice, "I still have filming today." It was wishful thinking to sleep in when working in Director Zhang's crew. No matter how famous you were, you still had to abide by his rules. Otherwise, the wisest choice was to leave. Zhang Ke had reminded her yesterday, so Chen Fei didn't dare to take it lightly. Sigh. Lu Chen couldn't help but sigh. He traveled thousands of miles to visit the Mongolian grasslands. He thought that he could spend the night with Chen Fei, and enjoy the scenery of the grasslands together, but it turned out to be just a dream. Chen Fei giggled and turned her head to kiss her boyfriend to comfort him. How could this be enough? Lu Chen had to press her under his body, ready to seize the time to do something indescribable. Speaking of which, the best time last night was wasted. It was an unforgivable mistake. After being separated for more than half a month, Chen Fei was also aroused and passionately catered to him. Sister Fei brother Lu Chen. Just when the two of them were about to explode, a clear shout came from outside the tent. "Are you guys up?" Jegantana. Lu Chen, who was like an arrow on the bowstring, suddenly felt as if a basin of ice water had been poured over his head. He couldn't help but curse in a low voice. What the hell was going on? Chen Fei, whose face was flushed, rolled her eyes at him coquettishly, struggled to get up from the bed, put on her coat, and walked out. "Sister Jejentana, what's the matter?" It turned out that Jejentana had brought breakfast to the two of them. There was milk tea, beans, cheese, and pies. They were all authentic Mongolian food, and they had just been made. Of course, there was a reason why the little girl was so attentive. It was because Lu Chen promised to teach her the song, "Beautiful Grassland is My Home," last night, so she couldn't wait. It was really self-inflicted. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he had to go out to wash up. Fortunately, the breakfast was very good. The milk tea was mellow and fragrant, and the pies were delicious. Lu Chen ate a few of them in one go. After filling his stomach, he felt much more refreshed. After breakfast, Jejentana carried the harp over. Not only did this little Mongolian girl want to learn to sing, but she also wanted to play and sing like Lu Chen. Although she was young, she had already learned to play the harp, and the harp she used was an ancient harp passed down in her family. The little girl was so eager to learn, and she liked the song so much. Since Lu Chen had already promised, he certainly wouldn't hide anything. He first copied down the score of the song, "Beautiful Grassland is My Home." Then he sat at the entrance of the tent and taught Jejentana to play, carefully guiding her on the singing techniques. What surprised Lu Chen was that Jejentana not only had a beautiful voice, but she also had a very strong learning ability and a very good sense of music, so she was able to learn very quickly. After some guidance, Jejentana held the harp and sang by herself. She was already very good at it. The same song, "Beautiful Grassland is My Home," came out of her mouth. The same tune, but she sang with a different charm and emotion. Although she was still quite inexperienced in singing, she still gave people a very moving feeling. "Beautiful grassland is my home. The water is clear and the grass is beautiful. I love it. The grassland is like a green sea." Unknowingly, there were many herdsmen outside the tent. They were all attracted by Jejentana's singing and even forgot to do their work. When Jejentana finished singing "Beautiful Grassland is My Home," everyone applauded in unison. Jejentana's face was red, and she looked very cute. The whole process was recorded by Chen Fei, who was sitting at the side with her phone. She uploaded the video to her blog, added a simple title, and posted it. Although the spring hunting ground was in the hinterland of the Mongolian grassland, it had been covered with mobile signal more than 10 years ago. One could still go online through the 4G high-speed network here. When Chen Fei, was filming on the grassland, she would check her blog every day and post a few stills for her fans to see. This was also a form of promotion for the TV series. However, this morning's video post was especially different. That was because Chen Fei, and Lu Chen's fans had finally found a guy who had been missing for a while. I was wondering where Lu Chen had gone. There hasn't been any news recently. Turns out he went to film a TV series. Does Lu Chen have a role in this TV series? I haven't seen him before. He's probably going to accompany my Fei, my Chen is mighty. They're not showing off their love this time. Who is this Mongolian girl? Could she be Lu Chen's student? She's so pretty. I like her. What's the name of this song? I've never heard it before. It's too good. Truth. Truth too. The fans' curiosity was immediately piqued by the video. Everyone asked if Lu Chen had been accompanying Chen Fei, on the set, and why he had not been seen for a while. Who was this Mongolian girl? And this song. The Waves blog was in an uproar, and the Shuequan hunting ground was also lively. Director Zhang Ke came over. Seeing this person, Chen Fei, was so scared that he quickly put away his phone and quickly got up to say, "Director Zhang, you don't have to worry." Zhang Ke smiled and waved his hand saying, "I'm here to discuss something with Lu Chen. This great director was here for my beautiful home on the prairie." He wanted to get Lu Chen's authorization to use this song as an interlude in Grand Event Song Parade. Of course, the lyrics would have to be slightly modified. In this regard, Lu Chen would certainly not refuse. Any songwriter would not refuse to use their work in a big CCTV drama. This was a good thing to enhance their own style and status. It was usually something they could not ask for. As for the authorization fee, it did not matter at all. Interestingly, Zhang Ke originally planned to let Chen Fei sing this song, but after hearing Jejentana's voice just now, he changed his mind. This song would be sung by this Mongolian girl. Chapter 464. Chen Fei's number of fans on Waves had already exceeded 20 million, and was currently approaching the 30 million mark. The rapid growth of her popularity was entirely due to the success of 2 popular TV series and her new album. She was now at the height of her popularity in the pop music industry. After entering the film and television industry, she had a smooth road all the way to the top. She had the posture of becoming the queen of film, television, and song. Therefore, although Chun Fei's blog fans were not the most, and there were many more than her fan activity was extremely high. The ratio of clicks, comments, forwards, and likes on a blog post was among the highest. The number of fans was very low. Unlike many star artists who operated like zombies, a high number and high activity brought high commercial benefits. If one wanted to make a name for themselves through Chun Fei's blog, they would have to pay at least 1 or 2 million yuan. Even so, apart from formal endorsement products, Chun Fei rarely used blog posts to earn this kind of extra money. She treated Waves's blog as a platform for communication and interaction with her fans, not a tool for commercial profit. It was precisely because of this that fans were also keen to read her blog. Especially recently, Chun Fei would show off her love and abuse her love and single love from time to time on her blog, which always attracted a lot of criticism. Interestingly, among the netizens who read Chun Fei's blog, many were Lu Chen's fans. Through Chun Fei's blog, they could hear Lu Chen's original works from time to time. When this video was posted today, Chun Fei did not think too much about it. She liked Enchanting very much, and then felt that the scene of Lu Chen teaching her to play and sing was very beautiful and touching. So she filmed it and shared it with her fans. Beautiful things naturally had to be seen and experienced by everyone. But inadvertently, Chun Fei made Enchanting popular. As a Mongolian girl, Enchanting's appearance could first make the eyes of the majority of netizens light up. Her pure beauty and cuteness, coupled with very ethnic characteristics of clothing, coupled with a natural voice, instantly conquered countless otakus. Most importantly, she was accompanied by Lu Chen, and Chun Fei filmed her. The combination of the two was very influential. There was no need for deliberate promotion, and it could still produce a sensational effect. In addition, Beautiful Grassland is My Home, a song with distinct ethnic characteristics and theme style, also gave people a refreshing feeling. As a result, this video was widely forwarded on Waves's blog. Many people in the circle saw it and liked it, commented and praised it, and then quickly spread to forums, Tieba and QQ groups. This was the power and charm of the internet. Something that had just happened thousands of miles away could be transmitted in all directions in an instant. It was like a butterfly flapping its wings on the grassland, and it could set off a storm in the distance. In the process, people couldn't help but ask curiously, "Who is this Mongolian girl?" Unfortunately, Chun Fei turned off her phone after posting her blog post. She had a lot of shooting tasks today. She needed to go over in advance to put on makeup and dress up. She had no time to pay attention to the feedback on the blog, so naturally, she couldn't answer fans' questions. On the other side, the discussion between Zhangku and Lu Chen went very smoothly. Zhangku also liked this song Beautiful Grassland is My Home. The TV series he was shooting was also called Shengshi Longsong. Naturally, he needed a lot of musical works to enrich the theme. Ancient songs and ancient music were certainly indispensable. A song with distinctive ethnic characteristics like Beautiful Grassland is My Home could also be fully integrated into it. For Lu Chen, this impromptu song was different from his other popular works. Its real value could not and should not be measured by money. In fact, in his current position, money was very meaningless. Therefore, Lu Chen licensed this song to CCTV for a symbolic copyright fee of 1 yuan. This approach was not pioneered by Lu Chen. Of course, Lu Chen could clearly negotiate the licensing fee with CCTV according to his own position. CCTV could definitely pay hundreds of thousands of yuan. But in this way, he couldn't expect CCTV to invest resources to promote the creator or content related to the creator. Therefore, there was no point in haggling over it. The licensing fee for a song was at most tens of thousands. It was very cost-effective to use it in exchange for a friendly cooperative relationship with CCTV. Zhang Ke contacted the relevant departments of CCTV, and Lu Chen contacted his own studio. With the help of fax, the two sides quickly settled the contract. It only took more than an hour. Zhang Ke was very happy about this. After signing the contract, he shook hands with Lu Chen and said, "Don't worry, I won't bury this work." In director Zhang's view, Lu Chen was really considerate. If he bargained with CCTV for a small profit, it would inevitably take up a lot of his time and energy. That would be very bad for his mood. Since Lu Chun was willing to pay, he must give something in return. This was also the rule of the circle. Lu Chun said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, Director Zhang." Zhang Ke waved his hand. He thought for a moment and said, "There's no other way today. Tomorrow, I'll rearrange the work and give Chen Fei a day off. You can go out and have fun." It was undoubtedly rare for a great director like Zhang Ke to change the shooting plan for an actor without special circumstances or irresistible reasons. It was also because he appreciated Lu Chun and Chen Fei. In addition, Lu Chun flew over from Hong Kong to visit the set. It was reasonable to give the two young people some time to get together. Lu Chun was naturally grateful. The next day, Chen Fei really got the opportunity to take a day off. So Lu Chun borrowed 2 horses from Uncle Begging Face and went to the hunting ground with Chen Fei. They enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the prairie together and were affectionate. It was a pity that good times were always short-lived. On the 3rd day after arriving at the hunting grounds, Lu Chun had no choice but to embark on his return journey. When it was time to say goodbye, Chen Fei was reluctant to leave, while Jejentana's eyes were red from crying. Although they had only known each other for a short time, the Mongolian girl had a special feeling for Lu Chun. She really hoped that Lu Chun could stay here and teach her how to play the piano and sing. Seeing that she was so sad, Lu Chun had to make an appointment with her to come to Beijing when she had a chance. Uncle Begging Face, on behalf of the herdsmen in the hunting ground, sent Lu Chun a hada that represented good wishes. After saying goodbye to his beloved girlfriend and the Mongolian prairie, Lu Chun returned to Beijing on November 7th. Chapter 465. It was already past 11 o'clock in the evening when he returned to his home in Ziqingyuan in the capital. Lu Chun took a hot bath first. After washing away the dust and fatigue, he did not immediately go to bed. Instead, he sat in the study and sorted out his recent work in detail. After the official establishment of the film and television studio in Hong Kong, it would inevitably become normal for him to fly back and forth from Beijing to Hong Kong for a long time to come. If he did not arrange his work in an orderly manner, there would be trouble. At present, the focus of Lu Chun's work was definitely in Hong Kong. The new film, A Chinese Ghost Story, was about to start shooting. In order to catch up with the list of films supported by the new policy next year, his existence was absolutely indispensable. It was not that Lu Chun was not needed in the capital. On the contrary, many businesses could not do without him, such as advertising endorsements, commercial performances, film and television cooperation. With the hot release of the new album and the great success of the 2 TV series, more and more people came to seek cooperation. Beijing Television, Zhejiang Television, Crown Pictures, SPG, Chienda Brothers and other partners made a lot of money in the TV series, full of romance, and strongly requested to start shooting a new TV series. It didn't matter if Lu Chun went to Hong Kong to shoot a movie. First, he had to come up with a new script, set up a crew, recruit actors, rent a set and so on. At that time, as long as Lu Chun found time to shoot it, it would be fine. Their voices were so strong that Lu Chun and the studio could not ignore it. Although it was definitely too late this year, it was not a problem to start shooting the new TV series in the first half of next year. So he had to write the script for the 3rd TV series. According to Lu Chun's plan, this new TV series would be the last one in his trilogy of urban romance TV series. After shooting, the future TV series would be fully focused on the big IP plan. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. A piece of A4 copy paper was filled with his writing. After several revisions, his thinking gradually became clear. Ring ring at this time, the landline phone on the desk rang. The caller ID showed that it was Lu Shi. Lu Chun answered the phone. Sister? Lu Shi asked. When did you come back? Lu Chun replied. I just came back. I was afraid that you were already asleep, so I didn't call you. You haven't slept yet? How can I sleep? Lu Shi snappily said. You found a good seedling in the Mongolian steppe. Why didn't you sign him? Ah. Lu Chun was confused. What good seedlings? Lu Shi was exasperated. Jejentana. That Mongolian girl is now very popular on the internet. She was signed by Chen Fei's studio. Ah. Lu Chen had never expected that Lu Shi would call him in the middle of the night to talk about Jejentana. He had no idea that Jejentana had become famous on the internet, so he hurriedly asked what was going on. Lu Shi saw that Lu Chen really did not know the truth, so she told him the whole story. It turned out that the morning before yesterday, Chen Feier posted a video on his blog. The content of the video was the scene of Lu Chen teaching Jejentana to play and sing, "The beautiful grassland is my home." As soon as the video was posted, it immediately became popular on the internet, and the number of views kept rising. The number of comments and reposts on Chen Feier's blog post had exceeded 1 million today, and it reached the top of the homepage of Waves's blog. Then at that time, many netizens wanted to know who this Mongolian girl was. It was only last night that Chen Feier briefly introduced her in a new blog post. Thus, the 14-year-old Jejentana became a real, internet celebrity overnight. That night, her name was on the hot list of online searches. Then this morning, Chen Feier's studio announced on its official blog that they had officially signed Jejentana. So that's how it is. Lu Chen finally understood. He remembered that when they were at the spring hunting ground, Chen Feier had said that Jejentana had the potential to become a star. At that time, Lu Chen did not pay much attention to it. He did not expect that Chen Feier would directly sign Jejentana. Lu Shi was unhappy. She scolded. "You're forgetting about your sister when you have a wife. Wouldn't it be better if we signed Jejentana ourselves? We can't possibly rely on you to support the Beijing studio forever, right?" The original purpose of the establishment of Lu Chen's studio was to serve Lu Chen alone, but as his fame grew and his career grew, the studio's expansion was inevitable. Now Beijing studio had been doing business with the outside world. The recording studio that had been invested in the construction of was not idle, and the daily work schedule was full. But this obviously could not meet Lu Shi's expectations, because in the circle, many star studios were developing into entertainment agencies. She also hoped to expand Lu Chen's studio into a real first-class company in the industry. Therefore, the original strategy of not poaching people and not signing people was changing. After more than a year, Lu Shi had treated Lu Chen's studio as her own business. She had long given up the plan to apply for graduate school and devoted herself to work. It could be said that without her efforts, Lu Chen might not have achieved what he had today. Now seeing such a good seedling like Jejentana being signed by Chen Feier, even if the other party was her future sister-in-law, Lu Shi was very unhappy. He had a wife and forgot about his sister. Lu Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Why don't I talk to Feier?" He believed that as long as he asked, Chen Feier would definitely sign Jejentana over. Lu Shi was not fooled. "Don't try to shift the blame. Do you think I would fight with your girlfriend? If you have the ability, you can discuss with Feier and merge the two studios into a new company. Then you don't have to separate." Lu Chen suddenly realized that after saying so much, this was probably his sister's real idea. But thinking about it carefully, her proposal was very reliable and operable. It was the so-called strong combination, and the effect was definitely greater than two. The only problem was that the two were not married or engaged yet. Merging the studio was not a small matter. He did not know what Chen Feier thought. Of course, Lu Shi did not really want Lu Chen to make the decision immediately. She just made a good suggestion. In the end, the decision was still made by Lu Chen and Chen Feier. His sister cared about Lu Chen's life and told him about his mother and sister in Binhai. Although there was a lot of chatter, Lu Chen felt warm in his heart. When he ended the call, it was already midnight. He reorganized his thoughts, then made a document on the computer, saved it, and went to rest. Chapter 466. Good morning, Director Lu. The beautiful front desk lady bowed, and her sweet voice made Lu Chen couldn't help but take another look at her. The front desk of Lu Chen's studio had always been Sister Xiaomei. Not long ago, she was transferred to Lu Shi's assistant, which could be considered a big upgrade. This front desk lady was recently recruited. At that time, Lu Chen just went to Xiangjiang. It was said that the news of recruiting a new front desk lady was released, and there was an endless stream of beautiful women coming to apply for the job. The competition was very fierce. It was a pity that he didn't get to see it, but this carefully selected new employee was undoubtedly very pleasing to the eye. Lu Chen nodded. Morning. Although the studio was founded by him, The position of general manager was always held by Lu Shi. Lu Chen himself was originally the music director, and now he was the art director. He asked one more question. "What's your name?" The front desk lady smiled sweetly and said, "My name is Wang Yali, you can call me Shaoli." Director Lu, Manager Zhang of Shanghai Publishing House is waiting for you in the reception room. Do you want to meet him in the office, or? Lu Chen said, "I'll go see him directly." Shanghai Publishing House was one of the top 10 private publishing houses in the country. Its headquarters was located in Beijing. When Lu Chen published the novel Autumn in My Heart, this publishing house bought the copyright with a high price of 15% plus 500,000 yuan. Later, the novel version of Full House of Romance was also cooperated with Shanghai Publishing House. So far, the total sales of these two novels by Lu Chen had exceeded 5 million. As a work adapted from a film and TV series, the results were very dazzling. Putting aside the influence of the work itself, Shanghai Publishing House also contributed a lot. Therefore, in the list of partners of Lu Chen's studio, Shanghai Publishing House was the first. Manager Zhang of Shanghai Publishing House, Zhang Yaoqing, and Lu Chen knew each other. This deputy general manager cum chief editor personally ran to the studio to wait for Lu Chen. Of course, Lu Chen had to personally come out to receive him. Manager Zhang, long time no see. In the reception room, Lu Chen once again saw Zhang Yaoqing, a middle-aged man with a refined temperament. Zhang Yaoqing shook hands with Lu Chen and said with a smile, "Director Lu, you are a busy man. It's not easy to find you." Lu Chen was ashamed. "Recently, I have been preparing to shoot a movie in Xiangjiang. I really can't be here." Zhang Yaoqing said, "This time, let me directly sign the contract. This time, let's just sign the contract." At this time, Zhang Yaoqing introduced the young woman he brought with him to Lu Chen. "This is Zhou Lu, my assistant editor. She is in charge of editing The Smiling, Proud Wanderer." Lu Chen nodded to the other party and said with a smile, "Hello." Li. Zhou Lu was in her 20s. She looked ordinary and wore thick glasses. Facing Lu Chen, she was obviously a little flustered. She wanted to reach out but retracted her hand. Her face was flushed. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Thank you for your hard work. Let's talk in the office." "Let's talk in the office." Of course, Zhang Yaoqing had no objections. He silently glared at Zhou Lu, a little exasperated at her for failing to meet his expectations. He brought his niece here today because he wanted her to see the world, get to know Lu Chen, a promising young man, and expand her horizons and contacts. He didn't expect Zhou Lu to be so bad. She didn't have the confidence she usually had at work. It could only be said that Lu Chen's charm was too great, or his halo was too dazzling. Zhou Lu, a young girl, couldn't keep calm. After sitting in Lu Chen's office, Zhou Lu finally reacted. She took out a thick stack of books from her briefcase. There were 5 books in total, and she put them in front of Lu Chen. Zhang Yaoqing explained, "This is a sample book specially made by our publishing house. The title was written by the famous calligrapher Mr. Fu Guangyuan. Please review it, Director Lu." Lu Chen picked up the book on the top and looked at it carefully. Although it was just a sample book, it was basically not much different from an official published book. The color laser printed cover was very high resolution. The 4 big black characters, the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, were bold and powerful, showing the extraordinary skills of the writer. The strokes of the pen had an unrestrained chivalrous spirit. Lu Chen was very satisfied. The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was the test of Lu Chen's big IP plan. In May and June of this year, he published the online version on Waves Reading under the pen name, Remembering the Present and the Past. At the beginning, the performance of the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was terrible. There were very few clicks, favorites, and comments. It was very bad. But when Lu Chen continued to update the book to more than 200,000 words, the performance of the book improved greatly. More and more readers liked the book, and it was also invited to sign a contract with the book website. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Chen to sign a contract with Waves Reading. Later on, he slowed down the speed of updating the book. When the book reached 500,000 words, he stopped updating and made a publication announcement. At this time, the number of favorites of the Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on Waves reading had exceeded 30,000. Lu Chen was not in a hurry for the operation of this new martial arts novel. Unlike movies or TV shows, a good book's reputation needed time to be accumulated and brewed. Just like wine in the cellar, the longer it was kept, the more fragrant it would be. Now that it was almost ready, Lu Chen would officially publish it and push it to the market. Then he would properly operate it to pave the way for a series of works such as The Legend of the Condor Heroes and Demigods and Semi-Devils in the future. There were 5 volumes of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, with about 1 million words. The design and binding of the book were antique, and the layout of the text was neat. Undoubtedly, Shanghai Publishing House had put a lot of effort into it. When Lu Chen was reviewing the sample book, Zhang Yaoqing was not calm. When Lu Chen's studio brought the manuscript over, the publishing house had a dispute on the specific terms of the contract, because the author of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, was not famous in the martial arts circle and had no previous works. There was definitely a risk in publishing such a book. It was easy to lose a lot of money if the royalty and the guarantee were involved. But after Zhang Yaoqing read The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and knew the feedback of the readers who read this book on Waves reading, he resolutely decided to sign the contract according to the highest level of treatment for authors. This is not only the need to continue the good cooperation with Lu Chen Studio, but more importantly, Zhang Yaoqing has a strong interest in this martial arts novel. His professional sensitivity tells him that in the traditional book reading market, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer definitely has a place. Therefore, after knowing that Lu Chen had come back from Hong Kong, he immediately went to visit him and sent the sample book that he had carefully prepared to ensure that he could get the publishing contract. Zhang Yaoqing believed that his sincerity was enough to get this cooperation. And in fact, he was not disappointed. Chapter 467. Happy Cooperation. In the meeting room, Zhang Yaoqing, the deputy general manager of Shanghai Publishing House, and Lu Shi, the general manager of Lu Chen's studio, signed the publishing contract for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Zhang Yaoqing shook hands with Lu Shi and Lu Chen with a big smile on his face, and said sincerely, "Don't worry, we Shanghai Publishing House will devote all our resources to the promotion of this novel, and make The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer a hit in the book market at the end of the year." There were 5 volumes of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, with 1 million words. According to the publishing contract signed by both parties, the first print run would be 100,000 copies of the hardcover edition, and 200,000 copies of the paperback edition. The total first print run would reach 1.5 million copies. For a novel written by a newcomer, and it was not a traditional best-selling novel, the first print run of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was undoubtedly too large. If it did not sell well, Shanghai Publishing House would suffer a great loss. As the leader of this publishing cooperation, Zhang Yaoqing also bore a considerable risk. To some extent, he was betting on his career and reputation in the circle. Of course, Zhang Yaoqing would not fight a battle he was not sure of. In addition to his confidence in the quality of the book, he knew the popularity of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on the internet, and the promotion of Shanghai Publishing House, Lu Chen and Chen Feier Studios. The real risk was not that big. The 2 big names had more than 50 million fans on Waves blog. Even with a discount, the sales of 300,000 copies was not a big deal. The serious thing was that if The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer became a hit under Zhang Yaoqing's leadership and created a new best-selling novel genre, then his reputation and status in the circle would definitely be enhanced big. Lu Shi smiled and said, "Thank you, General Manager Zhang." "You're welcome," Zhang Yaoqing asked tentatively. "To be honest, I admire the author of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer very much. He must not be an ordinary person to be able to write such a wonderful novel. Can you invite him over for dinner?" In this publishing contract, Lu Chen's studio signed the contract as the agent of the author, and the author himself did not appear. Zhang Yaoqing did not find any information about Remembering Now and Ancient on the internet. This made him very curious, and he wanted to take this opportunity to get to know him. If The Smiling, Proud Wanderer really sells well, then it will be easy to talk about the follow-up works. Although Lu Chen's studio is the sole agent of the author, it also has to consider the author's preference, right? Zhang Yaoqing didn't mean anything else. It was nothing more than the professional experience of a veteran. Lu Chun and Lu Shi looked at each other, and the latter said with a smile, "I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. This author doesn't like to socialize, and he has transferred all the copyrights to our studio, so, if there's a chance to get the author's consent in the future, then we can arrange it." While explaining, Lu Shi quietly rolled her eyes at Lu Chun. It was all his mysterious tricks. In fact, Lu Shi could also understand Lu Chun's scruples. He was already so good at writing songs and singing, and he was also a good screenwriter and actor. If he published a novel and became a real best-selling author, it would make people speechless. Sometimes Lu Shi couldn't figure out how many things were hidden in her brother's head. She had never seen him have so many talents before, and they suddenly burst out. It was not a bad thing to keep a low profile. Zhang Yaoqing regretted. That's a pity. He didn't think that Lu Shi was deliberately perfunctory to prevent him from contacting the author, because with the strength and status of Lu Chun's studio now, there was no need to play this kind of trick. Moreover, many talented writers did not like to socialize. Often, only by devoting themselves wholeheartedly to writing could they create truly outstanding and classic works. After seeing Zhang Yaoqing and Lu Shi off, Lu Shi said to Lu Chun, "Xiaochu and others are waiting in the studio." Lu Chun couldn't help patting his head. "They're here too?" Lu Shi said with a smile. "You are now a big shot in the circle, and people are watching your every move. So as soon as you came back, everyone came to your door. I think we need to give you another assistant." Lu Chun couldn't help laughing, shook his head and said, "I'm going to the recording studio." In the studio's recording studio, Lu Chun met the three beautiful girls of MSN again. The MSN girl group under Flying Stone Records has now become one of the most popular girl groups in the domestic pop music world. Its debut album, Not Yet Lovers, has now won double platinum. The number of fans on Wave's blog has exceeded 10 million. Announcements, commercial performances, and endorsements are all over the place. Flying Stone Records did not forget the great contributor behind the popularity of MSN. They have always maintained a good cooperative relationship with Lu Chun's studio. They even outsource part of the recording studio business to the studio, so that the latter's studio, which originally had no profit plan, actually made a lot of money. Of course, there was no free lunch in the world. Good cooperation was due to common interests. Last month, Flying Stone Records sent an invitation to Lu Chun's studio for 3 works, which were still tailor-made for MSN. In the publicity of Flying Stone Records and MSN's official blog, the contract amount was as high as 5 million yuan, which definitely created a new record in the industry and made many people in the circle dumbfounded. But the problem is that at present, the price of Lu Chun's songs is 1 million per song. Not everyone can get works from him at this price, and only a partner like Flying Stone Records can get the moonlight first. Tien. The pavilion closest to the water is the pavilion closest to the water. Brother Lu Chun. Seeing Lu Chun appear, Mu Xiaochu, who was chatting with Wang Hui and others in the monitoring room, quickly greeted him in surprise. Her pretty little face smiled like a flower, with joy from the bottom of her heart. Speaking of which, the two hadn't seen each other for a while. "Hello, Teacher Lu." "Good morning, Teacher Lu." The other 2 members of MSN, Su Jiejie and Ning Tian, also respectfully got up and said hello. The 2 of them addressed Lu Chun differently from Mu Xiaochu, because the latter had a better relationship with Lu Chun. And in the fan circle of both sides, fans had always treated Mu Xiaochu as Lu Chun's sister. Among the 3 members of MSN, Mu Xiaochu had the most fans. Her personal fans on Wave's blog were more than Su Jiejie and Ning Tian combined. Lu Chun said with a smile, "Hello." The 3 beautiful girls surrounded Lu Chun like stars surrounding the moon. Mu Xiaochu asked curiously, "Brother Lu Chun, is the Mongolian steppe fun? I've seen the photos that Sister Fei sent me. The scenery there is so beautiful." Lu Chun nodded and said, "It's fun. I'll take you with me next time." Mu Xiaochu smiled and said, "That's great. You can't go back on your word." Lu Chun smiled and said, "Do you want to pinky swear?" Su Jiejie and Ning Tian looked at each other and saw envy in each other's eyes. Chapter 468. Lu Chun and Mu Xiaochu met each other because they participated in Singing China. At that time, both of them were grassroots. One was a Beijing drifter struggling in Beijing, and the other was a freshman with no fame, background and connections. In the end, both of them were ranked among the top 10 singers in the country at the same time. Many of Lu Chen's fans, especially the members of Lu Jiejun, knew and liked the girl who often appeared around Lu Chen at that time. Everyone affectionately called her little sister Xiaochu. Later, when Lu Chen and Chen Fei fell in love, it did not affect the relationship between the two. Mu Xiaochu could big intimacy with Lu Chen, and even if they were photographed by reporters, they did not have to worry about being exposed to gossip. And it was precisely this relationship that made MSN the object of envy and jealousy of countless artists struggling at the bottom. In the circle, Lu Chen has the nickname Golden Touch. It is said that any singer, as long as he gives guidance, will be able to become famous and popular. His works are a guarantee of sales. But nowadays, it is basically impossible for ordinary singers and artists to get the guidance of Lu Chen. Even if they are willing to pay an amazing price, they may not have the opportunity to squeeze into the list of song invitations. Therefore, Su Jiejia and Ning Tian are very envious of the friendship between Mu Xiaochu and Lu Chen, but they are absolutely not jealous. Because they know very well that the success of MSN is inseparable from Lu Chen, and it is also inseparable from Mu Xiaochu. You try recording it first and let me listen to it. Flying Stone Records has its own recording studio, and has a number of experienced and well-known recording artists and a large number of professional talents in the industry, but MSN's new songs are still recorded in Lu Chen's studio. On the one hand, it is convenient for Lu Chen to give guidance on the spot. On the other hand, it also represents the attitude of Flying Stone Records. Not only that, Flying Stone Records also sent a recording artist to join Lu Chen's studio to help Wang Hui, who was already too busy to breathe, manage the recording studio. Otherwise, a lot of work would not be completed in time. The recording artist's surname was Hao. He was in his 30s, tall and thin with long hair. He was a little arrogant, but in front of Lu Chen, he was still very respectful, not daring to put on any airs. MSN's new song was recorded by him. The three girls entered the recording studio one by one, and put on huge monitoring headphones. After brewing for a moment, the prelude music quietly sounded in the monitoring room through the high-quality sound system. Mu Xiaochu, Su Jiejia, and Ning Tian looked very serious as they sang along with the music. Because we cannot fly, so the voyage of happiness is long. It was inevitable that there would be storms lying in ambush ahead. Want to try to separate our clasped hands? If you're not afraid, I won't panic if you don't panic. When we cross the ocean of love, he would rejoice that he didn't give up in the end. On the bustling shore, the tears along the way, they were all buried as treasures. The name of this song was Ocean of Love. It was the theme song tailored by Lu Chen for MSN's second album. It was also the most important of the three works. Different from the immaturity of Not Yet Lovers, Ocean of Love tended to be mature in style. There was a strong determination and desire for love in the sadness, which increased the difficulty of singing a lot. Compared with the recording of Not Yet Lovers, the growth of NSN was visible. They had a very tacit understanding. A glance was enough to communicate a lot of information. Their grasp of the emotion of the work was more in place, which made people feel enjoyment when listening. The voices of the three girls were all excellent, but they were by no means the same. Mu Xiaochu's sweetness, Su Jiejia's mellowness, and Ning Tian's clarity formed the unique charm of this girl group. This kind of charm was vividly displayed through the song, Ocean of Love. The turbulent ocean of love. There are too many sad waves. Let's not be like that. Let's not regret. Let's cross the ocean together. Let's go to the other side together. When it came to the climax of the chorus, the transformation of the three people's aura and the seamless connection were perfect. It was impossible to achieve this level without a long time of practice. Although it was the first audition today, the effect had reached the level of official recording. Lu Chen, who was listening in the monitoring room, showed a knowing smile. They were giving him a surprise. The music score of this song was composed by Lu Chen for MSN when he first arrived in Hong Kong. After more than half a month, they handed in a perfect answer sheet. There must be the supervision and guidance of professionals in Flying Stone Records, and the efforts of the three girls were indispensable. TN, Flying Stone Records, whether it was being a person or singing, Whether they put their heart into it or not, it was completely different. This effort alone was worthy of praise. After the song, Ocean of Love, was sung, the three girls opened their eyes at the same time. Applause rang out in the monitoring room. They saw Lu Chen and the recorder, as well as several other staff of the recording studio, applauding through the thick glass. They looked at each other and smiled, with joy from the bottom of their hearts on their faces. Singing a good song can not only bring pleasure to the listeners, but it is also a very happy and fulfilling thing for the singer. Although they sang it very well for the first time, according to the requirements of the procedure, Mu Xiaoqiu and others still recorded it several times. During this period, Lu Chen also pointed out some details to make the title song perfect. Tian. The title song is very beautiful. By the time everyone came out of the recording studio, it was already noon. Mu Xiaoqiu took Lu Chen's arm and said, "Brother Lu Chen, let's have lunch together, okay?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "Are you treating?" The three girls couldn't have asked for more, and they nodded quickly. Lu Chen said sternly, "You can treat us, but you must let me pay, otherwise I won't go." Su Jiejie and Ning Tian were stunned. Only Mu Xiaoqiu giggled and said, "Then we'll treat you to a big meal." Lu Chen was joking. They chatted and laughed, and they had lunch in a nearby restaurant. In the afternoon, they continued to record the other two songs. In the evening, the official blogs of Lu Chen Studio and Chen Fei, Studio released the same blog post at 8 o'clock sharp. The basic content of the blog post was that the two studios signed the copyright of the novel, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer by the author, Yi Jinggu. It would be officially published this month, and it was expected to be filmed in the second half of next year. It was the first time that the two studios released the same blog post at the same time, and the content involved the new TV series shooting plan. Naturally, it inevitably attracted the attention of countless fans and people in the industry. Lu Chen and Chen Fei's new TV series was actually a martial arts film, which surprised many people. In turn, it also aroused a strong interest in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. What kind of martial arts book could make the two TV stars, who had created domestic and foreign ratings records, recommend it so grandly? For a time, on major search engines, the search volume of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer suddenly skyrocketed. Note: Ocean of Love lyricist, Shirunching/composer. Heiko Schmidt, Roberto Rosen, Jade Violone. Chapter 469. The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was first published on Wave's literature website in May of this year. In the absence of a contract or recommendation, it gradually accumulated considerable popularity by relying on the word of mouth of readers. Many readers spontaneously promoted this rare martial arts book in forums and QQ groups. The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer fans have set up more than a dozen groups, which has a certain influence in the niche category of online literature. But this book is obviously a physical book, which is very different from the current mainstream novels on the internet. Therefore, the search volume on the internet is not high, and it is in a state of tepid popularity. As of October, the index of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, on the search list of the largest domestic search engine, Flash Search, is more than 20,000, ranking very low in the same type of search, far from the top 100. However, when Lu Chen and Chen Fei's studio announced that they had signed the copyright of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, and prepared to shoot a TV series next year, this long martial arts novel instantly became popular on the internet. By 11 o'clock in the evening, the keywords of Flash Search had been searched more than 5 million times, and soon it was on the hot search list on the homepage of Flash Search. And these search traffic, most of it was directed to Wave's literature. In the face of the surging IP calls, the website of Wave's literature felt that it was a dog's day. Of course, a large increase in traffic is a good thing. At present, the competition in domestic online literature is very fierce. The popularity of IP has created one legend after another. The value of popular and best-selling online novels is getting higher and higher. In order to win this lucrative market, the website is racking its brains to promote and market. In the absence of any advanced preparation, so many netizens were attracted. It was like a big pie falling from the sky, and it felt a little incredible. But the biggest problem is that although The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was first published on Wave's literature, it has not been signed by the website. All of its copyright has always been firmly in the hands of the author. The author can sell the copyright to whoever he wants. Waves Literature can only look at it and drool, but it can't get any benefits. On the other hand, if this book has been signed to Waves Literature, and Lu Chun and Chun Fei's studio want to buy the copyright, it is impossible without a lot of money. Who doesn't know the ability of these two to make TV series? Physical publishing, film and television adaptation, animation, games and movies. Looking at a big piece of fat meat in front of their eyes, but they can only touch the smell of oil. How can they not be depressed? The website management is depressed, and they have to vent their anger on the staff below them. The responsible editor and the chief editor have to suffer. How can a work that Lu Chun and Chun Fei be bad? Moreover, the performance of this book on the website itself was very good. He should have paid a price to buy it out in the first place. He wouldn't have missed such a good opportunity. It should be paid to buy it at the Waves Literature book. In fact, the editor was really wronged. When Lu Chun released The Smiling, Proud Wanderer on Inspire Books, the purpose was only to test the response of readers, and he never thought of giving up the publishing rights. Lu Chun didn't care about the money from the subscription fee. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was the test of his wuxia IP plan. All the copyrights should be firmly in his hands. How could the editor and chief editor of Waves Reading not feel wronged? It was a pity that even they didn't know the details. Because of them, they really missed a popular IP novel. Especially on the second day, the number of collections of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer on Waves surged from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. They all regretted that they had given away the book to someone else. Of course, reading on Waves was not without its benefits. At least there were many fans who were attracted by its fame. Most of the readers of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer were new users. The positive benefits brought to the website could not be underestimated. The online version of this book had a word count of 500,000, which was equivalent to 2.5 volumes of content. All of it was free to read, so it was naturally very attractive to readers. It was the first time that The Smiling, the proud martial artist appeared in the eyes of the public. As time went by, its reputation would spread more and more. At the same time, the physical book of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was about to go on sale. With enough time to brew, the TV series scheduled to start shooting next year was bound to attract a lot of attention. This was the prelude to Lu Chun's great wuxia IP plan. Are you satisfied now? On the second day after the announcement, Chun Fei talked to Lu Chun on the phone. She laughed and said, "You won't blame me for stealing Sister Jejentana's signature, right?" Lu Chun smiled bitterly and said, "I didn't blame you in the first place. I heard that Sister Lu she has a problem with that." Chun Fei was well informed. She explained, "Actually, it was my fault. I didn't expect that posting the video of you and Jejentana on the blog would cause such a big reaction. I was afraid that it would affect her life, so I signed Jejentana directly." Because of the video recorded by Chun Fei, Jejentana unexpectedly became an internet celebrity. In today's entertainment industry, she was bound to become a money tree in the eyes of some people. Even if she was in the boundless Mongolian grassland, people would still find her. With Jejentana's innocence and kindness, it was too easy for her to lose herself in the strange and dazzling entertainment industry. Chun Fei didn't want to ruin this beautiful and lovely Mongolian girl because of a moment of quickness, so she signed her to her own studio to prevent other people from thinking about it. In fact, the contract Chun Fei signed with Jejentana was very loose. If Jejentana didn't want to, she could still live a carefree life on the grassland. If she wanted to see how wonderful the outside world was and wanted to appear on TV, then Chun Fei's network was enough to protect her, so that she didn't need to contact the dark side of the circle. This was Chun Fei's responsibility and Jejentana's luck. Understanding Chun Fei's good intentions, Lu Chun was very touched. His girlfriend had a gentle and delicate heart, which was also his luck. "Actually, sister, I know." Chun Fei smiled and interrupted his explanation. "Sister Lu she definitely isn't angry, and I have already called her, so the studio issued an announcement at the same time." Lu Chun was convinced. "You guys colluded." Chun Fei smiled. "You are so busy with work, so you don't need to manage a lot of things yourself. Just take control of the overall situation. By the way, I have good news for you. Lu Chen's attention was immediately diverted. What good news? That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.